nimelala Isiolo na nimeambia county commissioner anaitwa Geoffrey Muding, nilifanya kazi na yeye nikiwa dio akiwa mdogo wangu, na nimemwambia hii mambo iko kwa hii mpaka cannot continue that way. The same way we have dealt with cattle rustling in North Rift, the same will happen here.
It said that the government will increase national police reserves to help deal with the problem.
Tutaongeza askari ya NPR na tutaweka watu ya kutosha, and they'll stay here until the problem is sorted. 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 5 years, it does not matter. That matter we are going to deal with.
Speaking in Meru, Gachagua also pledged to deal with cartels in the coffee sector.
Mambo ya majani chai tumepanga. Ya kahawa inatusumbua kwa hii makatel. Wamekuwa wakiibia wakulima. Wameibia wakulima miaka 50. Tunajaribu kuwatoa pale, wanapiga tu mateke. Lakini nataka kuuliza wakulima wavumilie. Unajua kutoa simba nyama kwa mdomo si mchezo, lakini tuko tayari. These fellows are difficult, but we are with them hapa kwa hapa. Sit down, PS. I want to assure our coffee farmers, the reforms we have started, we cannot stop. The journey to liberate the coffee farmer is a difficult one, but it will be done.
The United Nations Security Council will today vote on a resolution that will see a non-UN multinational force led by Kenya deployed to Haiti to combat gangs and restore security. The Council will develop the framework for and authorize a 1-year deployment of an international force with a review after 9 months. Caribbean nations and members of the CARICOM regional group, including Jamaica and Bahamas and Antigua Barbuda, have also expressed their readiness to support the mission that will be led by Kenya's force. The Bahamas has committed 150 persons to support the multinational force, while Jamaica said it cannot reach the 1,000 offered by Kenya. It will give what they can. A US drafted resolution says the force will help build capacity of local police planning, conducting joint security support operations, and also secure critical infrastructure sites and transit locations such as airports, ports, and key intersections in Haiti. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
It's critical that people pay taxes, but then taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
You know, with politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
That's what we need.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Traffic, certain parts of the city starting to build up already on the thicker superhighway. We've got some of it here and there doing the thing, coming in towards the CBD, and that's right around the Pangani underpass, and then heading out towards the city. We're also looking at some traffic then around Westlands. It's going towards James Gishuru. Looking at that to be pretty busy. Mombasa Road is not looking bad at all. We're looking at some movement on Jogo Road heading towards the Landis area and then out towards City Stadium, generally going towards Lasaka Road, or then the other direction, then going towards Kamkunji. It's a busy Monday morning already. Let's see what it has in store for us. Let us know what's going on where you are. Let's keep things moving. Spice FM KE on X. Talk to us there, and let's see what's happening where you are as we get into traffic hour this Monday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have CT Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
How you day? Good morning, and how are you? Welcome to Monday. It's the first Monday of October, the second day of October. We're officially into the third quarter of the year, and how excited am I? Yeah, I am very excited. Good morning, CT.
Morning, Do.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
October is here.
It is, isn't it?
It is. Yesterday was Nigerian Independence Day.
Which means December is here.
Yes, it is, and we're going to start singing "Ding Dong Merrily on High." The bells are sweetly ringing.
No, in heaven the bells are ringing. Yes.
Bum 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 bum. Yeah. It's coming. It's just over the hill and far away.
Hosanna
in Excelsis. Please help me.
Nope.
Hosanna in what?
You said it.
No, please, I want you to say it.
Nope.
Why will you not make a girls' Monday?
The girl should just be happy that it's Monday, and Hosanna can be an Excelsius.
Well done. and keep the thing moving, please.
Yes.
How's your weekend, CT?
Quiet.
It was quiet, as it usually is.
Yes. You know, my response to that question is, unless something untoward happens, the response is usually the same.
Yeah, it is. Well, good. My weekend was okay. I ate very badly. I was telling you guys earlier. I don't know.
You ate?
Badly.
Good thing is you ate at least.
No, but it was not good. It was not
the bad
proper.
was what exactly? Quantity, quality,
everything. Everything.
And how are you feeling now?
Like I should not have done it.
Okay.
My body is going to start rioting.
You're dealing with a little element of regret, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I shouldn't have.
Anything else that we're feeling apart from the regret?
For now, no.
So
I'm
need
good.
To deal with?
Well, you know.
Just the regret?
Yes.
Okay. Regret we can handle.
We'll sort it out.
That we can handle.
Nisawa basi. Yeah. People, good morning. How are you? Welcome to Kenya's Biggest Conversation. Thanks for being here this morning. A couple of conversations lined up today, and it's going to be an interesting Monday. Yes, we know Eric Latiff is still away. He will be with us a few days running, and then he will join the brigade once again. The Musketeers will once again be 3. So worry not, he is well and will join us soon. Sawa. In the meantime, like we say, the show must go on. Conversations continue. See now, you've infected me. CT Muga.
Man, if you've gone and acquired your on your own, I am not part of that. Sorry.
Okay,
that one you've acquired by association.
By myself?
Yes, and the association doesn't necessarily begin and end with me.
Something like that.
Right on.
All right. Let me tell you what we'll be discussing today. Sawa. At 7 o'clock, we'll have a conversation with the MP of Wajir South constituency, which is Mohamed Ado, and he'll be with us here. Ado will be with us here at 7. We'll be looking at the teacher crisis in northeastern region, and it's interesting looking at his career and what he's been able to do, and then being in a seat where then he is in the legislature and says, you know what, there's a crisis. This is how we can deal with it as members of parliament, as a member of parliament in that particular area. So that will be an interesting conversation at 7. At 8 o'clock, nominated Senator Gloria Orwoba will be with us here, and we'll be looking at the state of many things, isn't it? Orwoba, of course, having been mentioned quite a number of times, or quite a lot over the last couple of weeks, but we're looking at the state again of oversight and what exactly this means for the country. So that'll be interesting at 8. And then finally at 9 o'clock, education. We'll be talking about this for a couple of days, and whatever level you want to look at it, whether it's at the primary level, whether it's at the high school level, senior high, junior high, senior high, whether you're looking at university, tertiary and university, there is an issue across board, and we'll be looking at this quagmire. The president of the Kenya University Students Organization, Anthony Manyara, will join us at 9. So that's what Monday looks like. Thanks already for being here. As we get into it, we'll have a look at a number of these issues, and of course we know you'll be there with us. Sawa, that's how we're kicking off Monday, the 1st of October. Let's see how it pans out. Let's take a break now before we come and say hello to you and look at what the weather has in store this Monday, and then we'll say hello to you before we get into it. It's 6:15.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. You know, that's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person, or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
Who's a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
windows
sleep inside.
Up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, Nairobi this morning, we're looking at highs of 25, and looking into Nyeri today, we'll see highs of 23 and cloudy conditions through the day. Nakuru will be cloudy, going to highs of 17, and into Eldoret, cloudy conditions currently at 17. As we look into Kisumu, it's cloudy, a chance of rain at 24, and Kakamega also a chance of rain at 18. Mombasa is sunny, we'll see 26, going to highs of 29, and looking into Malindi, currently we're seeing sunny conditions, we'll see highs of 29 as well. All right, out into Kampala, cloudy conditions, highs of 27, and Dar es Salaam, we'll see highs of 30. It's partly cloudy currently. Looking into Johannesburg, 11 degrees, going to highs of 22, and then into Lagos, highs of 29. Kinshasa is sunny, we'll see highs of 30. Looking out into Beijing, Monday afternoon is 26 degrees and partly cloudy. Paris at 11 degrees and London at 15. New York, Sunday night is rainy. The floods continue, going to highs of 22.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, at 18 minutes after 6 o'clock, I want to say hello to you. So we're trying to get connected to you. We'll find you in a minute, but let me find folks who are on Facebook. Quite a number of you already that I'm seeing. If I allow my thing to do the thing. Okay, that might take a minute. Before that, CT, how about we look at the proverb and then we can come back and say hi to folks.
I decided that this week we will simply move on to our neighbor.
Okay.
Take a guess which neighbor we moved to.
Tanzania.
Well, no.
Oh, gosh. Neighbor in what direction?
Neighbor.
Uganda.
Thank you.
Okay.
See? You know, this one isn't difficult. Huh?
Finding the neighbor.
Direct neighbors are only 4. 5, actually. Uganda. Tanzania, Southern Sudan, Ethiopia, Somalia.
Yeah, they're not many.
Not difficult to find. The country of Uganda. The genuine country of milk and honey.
For real.
For real. People who live together cannot fail to have quarrels. Simple.
That's so true.
Yes, people who live together cannot fail to have quarrels.
Yeah, you're in the same space all the time. You're bound to clash
you're going
at
to
some
quarrel.
point.
You are going to disagree. You are not going to see eye to eye. Yes. You are going to fault find. Yes.
I like that one. Straight to the point, but it is true. All right. Guys, let me say hello to a few of you here and there, right, that we can find. Well, don't worry, we'll get connected in a bit and be able to see on our live streams. They'll be up in a minute. Sindo Ednah. Okay. John Amasongola, it's been a minute. How are you? Matureti Orure Jared is tuned in from Nyachichi Secondary School, Kitutu Masaba, Nyamira County, and says, good morning. Emmanuel Kipsang is tuned in as well, and he says, hola. All right. Hujambo 254's information faculty, the situation room, 042 Ndani, ready for today's conversations. Amisalimia Ednah. Ednah mepokea salamu. Good morning, fired up for the new month. Sir Nick Bala says good morning, and Amos Freeman as well is tuned in. Mungai Joe Ngige is tuned in from Bonnie Lake in Washington and says hi into City and Ednah. Yes, good morning to you. We see all of you all trickling in this morning and we're getting into it, and we'll get onto our live streams on YouTube in just a minute, but we can see you all. Asante sana for joining us. All right, we're going to take a look into the papers this morning and see what's making the headlines. Let's take a look on the front page of the Standard. First of all, there's a puzzle, CT, and I don't know how many pieces you have. A puzzle of a government living large. Economists reacting to the Controller of Budget report say in spite of the cost of living going through the roof, state officials are yet to tame their spending habits, splashing money with wanton abandon on things that can be avoided. 3.9 billion shillings is the amount the government spent on fuel in the last 1 year. 30 shillings, not 30 shillings, 30 million shillings is the amount the government will spend on a political event to showcase its progress. Yani, tuta pesa kidogo, we just show you, what we've done. Not bad. Kupet bosses call for a review of education report, and animal feeds makers in the soup over prices. Okay, so we'll be looking at that. Haiti mission, not a walk in the park. We've heard over and over that there's a chance of 1,000 Kenyan policemen and women going to keep the peace in Haiti. That should be fun.
No, it will not be fun.
No?
No. Haiti.
Dripping with sarcasm is what I was
How
doing.
close are we to Haiti compared to Canada and the US?
Geographically?
Yes.
Well, we'd say that the US and Canada are much closer.
Precisely, and they seem very silent on this matter.
Yeah.
Why are we wading into it? Okay, what has the UN done so far with regards to Haiti?
Let's look at what these gangs that are looking for, that the world, quote unquote, is looking to control in Haiti. What have they done? How many of the presidents in Haiti have they actually butchered? Let's be honest. Have they actually butchered? And what are we talking about here in terms of what is possible that would happen to 1,000 Kenyan policemen and women should they actually venture into this activity?
You know, one of those things where you say the unsuspecting Kenyans.
Where? This one would be interesting to look at. Death on campus is what's on the front page of the Standard today, or rather of the Nation. College should be a place where students go to acquire knowledge and hone essential life skills, but it's becoming all too common for parents to pick up their bodies and shattered dreams of their children. Why does it happen? Who's at fault? And how can young people get help? It's a higher education pullout, and we're looking at the faces of a number of students who went to school to chase education and unfortunately have come back in a box. I'll transform Kibera in 10 years is one of the ticker headlines. Declares Ruto as he roots for his housing plan and says, 10 years, give it to me. This Kibera that you're seeing like this, overhaul and we'll make it brand spanking new. 6 in 10 Africans living with diabetes are not aware of their condition, according to a study that has come out. And we'll look at the details of that. On the back page, 5-star Kenyans show the world a clean pair of heels on the Riga streets, Riga being in Latvia. And we saw these come out in the World Athletics Road Running Championships that took place in Riga, Latvia yesterday. Many, many more stories for us to look at, but I'll just give you the headlines. On the Business Daily, the rise of big government as Ruto starts his second year. And you may ask yourself, what's big government? Well, it's big spending on social plans, and they're heavier than the tax burden. Private businesses at risk of being crowded out. We're already seeing that some of these are being flushed out, essentially, and flushed away, that these small businesses are actually closing. All right, that's what's on the Business Daily this morning. We'll look at the meat of some of these stories as we go along. What you got, CT?
I'm looking at Star. Similar stories to the one you have. They have cholera, Kenya being among the top. We have Kenyans running and beating everybody as they're running. Well, like winning the races,
Gotcha.
In other words. Yes. The president saying upgrading, he'll make the Kibera slum respectable living space in 10 years. This is good. We are through the 1 year promises. 10 is reasonable.
Yeah.
Within 10 years, you can determine. It's just that in 10 years, he will no longer be president. But let's hope that whoever takes over will be able to continue with that particular. Oh, let me bite my tongue and say, perhaps he may not be president in 2010. That perhaps is a better proposition.
In 2027?
10 years' time is not 2027.
Oh, so 2032, right. Yes. Okay.
Yes. So 10 years, it's good. This is how you plan things. You don't have to finish it. You just need to start it. And since it's a government project, the next government will take over the reins.
Yeah, you hand over the baton, isn't it?
Exactly. That's the general idea. When is the date? Maraga team to present report on police reforms to president this week. Okay, how many police reforms have we had and how many reports have we had? Interesting question that, wouldn't you say? We'll look at this, okay? Life-saving experts come up with plans to end premature births, avert long-term poor health. This is also interesting. What has been required, what has been needed is known. So are they saying that this is the time that they're going to operationalize it? And all these things cost money. So are we going to look at the billions that are slated and budgeted for health? And they're going to tell us the percentage that they're now going to put for this particular function. Right. Investment. Kenyans in diaspora launch 1 billion housing project in Kisumu's upmarket suburb. This is a story on page 25. Okay. No, this isn't a story of affordable housing. This is what you understand.
This is something different.
Yes.
Well, okay.
Well, it's affordable for those who want to live in an upmarket suburb.
But not for everybody else.
No.
Indeed.
No.
Okay. We have time to look at one story. So how about we get into it and look at this puzzle of government living large. Is it a puzzle? I don't even know that it's a puzzle, but all right. Puzzle of government living large. So economists are saying that, or rather reacting to the Controller of Budget report, saying that in spite of the cost of living going through the roof, state officials are yet to tame their spending habits, splashing money with wanton abandon on things that can be avoided. Okay, let's just look at it and get over some of this sadness, shall we? It's carried on page 4. So here are the details. Ruto is being told that he must cut spending on costly events amidst biting cost of living. Kenya's political arena, and this story is by Brian Obara. Kenya's political arena is no stranger to spectacle. From opulent campaign launches to grandiose rallies, politicians spare no expense in their quest for visibility and power. Lately, however, the political class seems to have included, or rather, kick things up a notch. The ubiquitous use of A-frame tents for political gatherings has turned into a near daily spectacle across the country. So hiring of those. After consulting with experts, it's clear that hosting these colossal tent gathering comes at a huge cost, encompassing expenses for seating arrangements, red carpet, washroom facilities, lighting, video and sound systems. A conservative estimate pegs the cost of each event at 10 million shillings, but some organisers have claimed that with all the embellishments, the price could soar as high as 30 million. Okay. Critics argue that these lavish gatherings not only deplete public resources, but also erode the government's credibility, particularly as senior officials continually implore Kenyans to exercise fiscal restraint and tighten their belts. So on one hand, you're saying, Kenyans, you must brace for harder times and let's all just, try to sail through this a little bit easier. On the other hand, we see this lavish spending and the question is, what gives? 68.7% is the rise in the cost of electricity according to KNBS, while fuel prices surged by 14.2% and sugar by 61.4%. So we're seeing generally things going higher and higher, and the call is to say, look, government has to cut its spending for two things. One, save on resources, and number two, save the perception in terms of optics to the public. You cannot tell the public that things are going to get higher and more expensive, whereas now we see this splash of spending across board. So it'll be interesting to see if they're going to take heed to this or if we're just going to continue to see the kind of spending that we do. And that is the question. Will we continue to see that kind of spending? All right, let's take a break and look at traffic and see what's happening on the roads this morning. As early as 6:30, Kenya's biggest conversation, looking at the papers and seeing what's making the news around the country and indeed around the world.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, it's building on Jago Road, getting out towards Landis, and we'll see that then touch on the Kamkunji roundabout, coming in off the Thika Superhighway, coming in from Githurai. And let's look at that Mwiki Road. For some reason, there's bumper traffic as you're trying to get to the main highway, and hopefully that will clear up in a bit. Not quite sure what's causing that, but shout out and let us know if you're aware, so folks heading in that direction can plan appropriately. All right, as you're coming towards the Pangani underpass, you should be fine. It's moving, then it'll get into a bunch up right there at that underpass, and then out to the CBD should not be too difficult. All right, coming off Mombasa Road as well, it's looking good. As you get towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, you'll be fine. Heading out onto Uhuru Highway, keeping an eye on that and see what happens thereafter. All right, it's still early pickings. It's slim in terms of traffic. We'll check back in a short while. Talk to us on Spice FM KE on X.
Three, two.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
Baridi ni degree ngapi hapo?
Hata sijui, lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
He's the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ, when he slapped those guys and walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa, took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings,
etc. All right, what else do we have in terms of stories making headlines? A little bit of meat on it.
Well, stories abound. Let's look at this matter of child health. New plans to stop babies from being born too early. Okay, this is a story by John Mushangi in The Star. He says, let me just read it out. The foundations of your well-being are laid before birth. Unfortunately, thousands of babies in Kenya experience problems while in the womb and die before birth, while those who make it are either born too small or born too soon. Currently, every year, about 120,500 babies in Kenya are born too soon before 9 months. According to experts, babies born too soon or too small are vulnerable to death in the first month or later in their childhood. Many of them suffer long-term health problems. Kenyan scientists have now joined others in developing strategies to prevent such births. The strategies published in the Lancet Journal as a series have been given a nod by the Ministry of Health. They provide low-cost pregnancy interventions and incredible... I'm reading my own things today. And include multiple micronutrient supplements, treatments of syphilis, and treatments of asymptomatic bacterial infections for all women. Okay. The target interventions include low-dose aspirin, balanced protein energy supplements, prevention of malaria in pregnancy, progesterone provided vaginally, and smoking cessation. Yani, preventative approach. We have this problem, and as I said in the intro earlier on, you know how to go about it. They now seem set to decide that, you know something, we've figured this and we've talked about it. Now, we are going to ensure that this thing is actually rolled out. Okay? Professor Malindi Timmerman, director of Aga Khan University Center for Excellence in Women and Child at East Africa, Nairobi, said 1 out of 4 babies is born too early, too small, or stillborn. It is our moral duty to invest in the prevention of small, vulnerable newborns through early and high quality antenatal and childbirth care through girls' and women's reproductive rights. Okay? Now, Aga Khan has what you call a small, vulnerable newborn consortium that was launched recently. Okay? In short, Malindi Timmerman has been at the heart of very serious research in matters of newborn children and maternal health for well over 2 decades in this country. But I think her career spans over 3 decades.
Yeah.
Yes, she's someone who has been at this business for a very, very, very long time. Now, this is all good and well. What I'd like to know, and which they've mentioned places and statistics from Nairobi to Kajiado, Kakamega, Trans Nzoia and all that. What I'd like to know that since health is a devolved function, how they are going to apply all this to these devolved functions, and whether these devolved functions have the capacity. Now, capacity here begins with personnel.
Yeah.
Then it goes with the actual physical units where you need to do this, and then the commodities that will be required to ensure that these things are done. Remember, this is preventative.
Yeah.
And it's something that will be far less costly than the curative approach that we've always had towards this. This is something I wait to see evolving.
It's interesting because when we talk about, so essentially what they're saying is that, look, all of this is preventative. Babies being born too small or being born too soon can be avoided if there's certain interventions that are taking place while the mother is pregnant, right? And they're saying that in order for this to happen across board, there has to be a kind of like a county to county intervention. The question is, how ready are you to make this happen?
Yes.
And that really is it. That if you've seen something that can actually be prevented and it's a problem, and there's something you can do about it, how ready are you to actually have the thing done? If you're not, then, we'll just be talking, that, it's going to rain tomorrow. We might as well be talking about the weather or birds flying south for the winter. If you're not going to do something about it, where there's a problem, there's something that can be done, but you choose not to do it, then I think this is where the problem lies. We talk about health being devolved, so you already have capacity. One would assume that you have capacity in 47 different demarcated areas. Then what are you doing about it? We want to look at. All right. Why are students dying on campus? I don't know that there's one slapstick reason, but it's becoming worrying, the numbers that we are seeing. It's the main story carried on the front page of the Daily Nation today. And they start off with, college should be a place where students go to acquire knowledge and hone essential life skills, but it's becoming all too common for parents to pick up the bodies and shatter dreams of their children. Why does this happen? Who's at fault? And how can young people get help? So this is on the education pullout. It's carried on page 2 and looking at the faces of young, students who lost their lives after having been sent to university. Survival 101 is what it's being called. A guide to leaving college in one piece. And this is when you're done. And those who die without explanation. I think the overarching question here is it happening with such, has it become so normalized that there are students who are dying on campus for certain reasons and that it all needs to be put together and looked at critically? Or are we saying that all of these events, when a student has died, happen in isolation? And so it could have been anybody else. It's not a trend. That the manner in which they've died is not a trend. Every case is different, and so you cannot lump it together and say students are dying on campus and this is the reason why. It's one of those tricky ones though, because indeed every case happens in isolation, but every case has a different reason as to why it happened. You're not going to say that 1, 2, 3 is the recipe for death when it comes to students on campus. So it's a tricky one if you ask me to deal with. It's a tricky one to be able to look at and say, this is the reason and this is the formula and it fits in a box. You can't really do that.
Can I juxtapose it for a while? I'm looking at the story on page 4 again of the Star. Kenya among Africa's top 10 cholera nations. Now, top 10 shouldn't be followed by something like this. Top 10 in cholera, meaning of all the countries on this continent, you're among the 10 who have a preponderance of cholera.
Yeah.
Now in this country, just for example, Garissa 2,853, Mandera 2,604, Nairobi 2,177. So if you are to go by the ratio of people to cholera, these counties that I'm speaking of have a very bad go of it.
Not doing too well.
Tana Wajir 745, Tana River 780, and so forth and so forth and so forth. These numbers are there because of a reason. There is something that is causing it. Now, it isn't a secret that water is the main carrier of
cholera.
Yes, untreated water. Now, if people can prevent whatever it is from fecal matter to anything else that when found in water that people drank and which isn't treated or boiled causes cholera, then cholera cases will continue to rise. Okay? Because the other count is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There are 47 counties.
Yep.
Okay, so 33 of them don't have this sort of problems. They have, but in small numbers. Let's go back to the deaths. We never used to report such numbers of students dying on campus. Now,
no.
Is it that they happened and they were not reported? Or is it that they're being reported? And if they are, even if it was one child dying, we want to know why that child died. This isn't a question of, let's get to 10, then we talk about it. No. Let's start with 1. Why did this one child die? They were killed. What happened? What brought this about?
And then are we going to start talking about then, because if you look at the reasons as to why that one would have died on campus for whatever, were they killed? Did they die from a health reason? So then there's so many things you look at thereafter. Are health emergency services on our campuses being taken into consideration? All right. If it's something that, if it's another issue that they died by, murder, are we looking at security on campus? If you want to say that it was food poisoning on campus, then are you looking at the health and safety measures that have been put in place by institutions? That for every reason why any child would have died on campus, because they are children, that child 17, 18 getting into campus, they're children, as they get into early adulthood, okay, that these young adults would have died on campus, there is a requisite question. There is a follow-up question that whatever they died from, there is a question thereafter in terms of these institutions and what they're doing to secure the safety of those who come to study there. It doesn't matter what it is.
And now that we've seen and we've heard and we've been told, what have they done? Do we read of stories about, or do we hear of plans that these institutions of higher learning have put in place to ensure that these occurrences do not happen again? Do we read? No, we don't read.
No, we don't.
I have not read.
No.
It's reported and that's it.
The most recent case we have of this young girl who was murdered two days after, because that's what they said, after the initial report that yes, she was murdered. She was found, in the dorm.
Is it the one in Daystar?
Yes.
Yes.
Did we hear follow-up? Have we heard a follow-up in terms of investigation?
No.
What was happening? What happened? Did somebody follow her to school? Was somebody there? Is there somebody on campus who has this kind of behavior? What's being done to check and make sure that such a thing does not happen again? And to give proper recompense to the parents who are waiting to hear answers for their children. Why? I once heard somebody say something that we do not value life. And I thought she was being a bit harsh. But I think a little bit differently. Because if we did, then some of the responses that we take in the occurrence of things like death would it be a little bit more serious. That we would ask questions, that we would insist. And somebody said, well, why are you getting so angry? I said, why aren't you? Why aren't you getting more angry? And that's a problem for me. Because what's the value that you place on human life?
Do they understand what it is that the death of a child means to a family, to a community? Do they have any idea?
For many of these children who go to university, they are the hope for not just a family, but for a community. And when I say a hope, I don't mean that they will get a job and come back and boost the family. I mean a hope that there is hope. A hope that you've been able to educate somebody from possible. Exactly, that it is possible. And that many more can also ride on the wings of that success. So when something like that happens, and then you now just let it slide, like, all right, it's another, I mean, the only sure thing about life is death, and those are the things that we say.
Well, one can be callous about these things. I don't know what it is that one is trying to achieve when one seeks to be callous, but look at the matter that arose, okay, in Wasingishu with regards to children who are supposed to have gone abroad to Finland and other such destinations. If you watched the videos or saw the movies or you saw the pain these parents went through, these children are alive. There's a child who committed suicide. That child didn't go abroad to commit suicide. That child went abroad to study. Consider the sacrifices that those parents made. These are ordinary folk, but they want to ensure that their children get the best possible opportunities. It
is true.
And then that life is snuffed. That cannot be nothing. That cannot be something you discuss as though you're saying, well, the wind blew by here on Wednesday. No, it is not.
No, I think I watched the video over the weekend. It touched my heart because this lady sells peas. The peas that you shell, the green ones, the round ones.
Minji.
Thank you. That's what she does in the market. Somehow she put together her coins year on year. She's borrowed money from groups. She's done things. She sent her daughter abroad to go to school. So she's in the market going about her business. The daughter has come home after 1.5 years to visit her mother. The mother didn't even recognize her, and it was such a joyous moment to see in that moment. And she can see, wow, my daughter is here. She didn't even recognize her first. She was just going about her business like, okay, no big deal. And then she realized, oh my goodness, this is my daughter actually. And in that moment, you could see that she realized that her effort, my God, was worth it.
Yes.
Now, can you imagine such a situation whereby the life of that girl that you've made an effort for all your life, everything has been poured into it.
It's snuffed.
Then somebody comes and tells you, your child died.
Sorry.
Sorry. Well, giving you the details later. Like it doesn't matter. There's a problem.
No, actually, the universities have to answer.
Come on.
They have to be held to account. The lives, they are there loco parentis. They are there instead of the parents. These numbers and being defensive, what have you done to ensure that these things don't happen? Let's start with that. And then let's see how it is that somebody managed to abrogate these safety measures that you've put in. Okay?
If indeed you have.
That is why I want to start with the safety measures that you've put in place.
Man, these things, and it's an insistence on excellence, and that we've let go to the dogs, and we need to take it seriously.
But also there's this little matter that must be mentioned even as we move along. How it is that people who share that same space of university feel they're each other's keeper. The comradeship that universities and institutions of higher learning were known for. Where you are aware where your comrade is, what's happening to them. Has that disappeared altogether? so that all you do is you get to college and you are on your own. Really. In a sea full of people, you are on your own. Something happens to you and days pass by and no one knows.
Well, they don't know where you are. They remember seeing you a few days ago.
And then beyond that, no one and you attend classes with people and you know people. Really. Is this not the most tragic thing you can hear about the state of this nation?
Isn't it?
Is that what we've gotten into? Now, these are these young people we keep talking about as being the people to whom we are leaving the future to. This is the future.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
This is it.
This is what it looks like. As you say that, then, something rings in my head, CT, that it's way past time that we started again to look and care for one another. It's not utopian. It's not foreign. It's just the way we know how to do it. So that things have gotten so bad that even the care for the person next to you is no longer of priority. And that's where we've come from, though. We've come from a place where we used to care one for the other. That doesn't happen anymore.
No.
It's an isolationist, self-perpetuating kind of community society that we live in today, and we do not know, so much so that somebody can die. CT died, death, life removed. And, all right.
It is mentioned in passing.
In passing, I don't know.
Yeah, we had tea in the morning.
And that's
kind of
just about it. No, we can't. We can't. We really can't. Because it's university students today, it's children tomorrow, it's somebody in another social cadre the next day. We cannot. And again, I asked that question when somebody asked me, why are you getting so upset? And my question remains, well, why aren't you? Why aren't you getting so upset? And it's because you're not getting so upset that we're seeing things go down the crapper the way we are seeing right now. That's the case.
It is.
Okay, so Kibera will no longer be a slum in 10 years, according to the president. And so do we see and hear yells and screams of jubilation? Well, you should, because President Ruto yesterday declared his intention to transform the Kibera informal settlement into a modern residential area by the time he's done with his second term in office. So many things said in that statement, but okay, let's just go with it. Speaking at the Deliverance Church Langata, Dr. Ruto revealed the government ambitious plans to build 200,000 houses in Nairobi over the next 5 years, with the twin goals of alleviating the country's pressing slum crisis and creating jobs for the youth. President Ruto's plan to develop Kibera is in line with the government's wider initiative of eradicating slums in towns and cities. The president said, "We have an ambitious plan to transform Kibera into a well-developed estate as a key part of our comprehensive slum eradication program. Within a decade, that's 10 years, Kibera will undergo a remarkable transformation, and we are committed to eradicate all slums."
That is one of the few things I have heard in the recent past that makes sense. None of this nonsensical slum upgrading. You're upgrading to what? A high-class slum.
Yeah.
Slum eradication makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Let's see how this comes about. Let's see how it moves along. It will be a good thing. But every time you hear of an improvement, there is always this question of what happened to those people who are currently living there? Where will they go?
I mean, that's a good question. Are you going to raise the thing to the ground? Because if you do, where are you going to take them? Because we're talking about easily million people in that whole area.
There are very many people.
Yeah. So what happens to them? Will there be makeshift settlements over a 9-month period while you know?
But even if we pause for a second and look at some of the areas that we refer to as slums in the country,
yeah,
you want to ask yourself how it is they come about. This thing called urban drift, the migration to urban areas, one of the things that it does, it forms a class of individuals who cannot afford what we consider to be a decent dwelling place.
Because look, people who leave the rural area to come to the urban areas are looking for a job, right?
Yes.
Most likely, they don't have money in their pockets at that time. They're looking for the job that they will start to do that will earn them something. So that also means that in terms of where they will live, you're not spoilt for choice.
No.
You're not spoilt for choice.
No,
you will take very little. And that's where we see slums coming up.
And they will keep coming up because remember, this one is no respecter of how much formal education you have.
No.
It's the money you have.
Right.
That's what will determine, because you do need a place to lay your head at night. Now, there are people who ensure that these dwellings exist for this cadre of individuals.
Yes.
That's why they're called slumlords.
That's why they are. And that is why for every, doesn't take your pick, for every urban, peri-urban, affluent center, not too far away, you will find the informal settlement that we call a slum. Take your pick. Look around Nairobi. Doesn't matter. If you want to look in Karen, if you want to look in wherever, you will next door find a slum.
Those who study economics argue that the reason why it exists, the people who live in these swanky upmarket places need labor.
Yes.
Now, they're not paid enough to live in the same neighborhood. Yes, no. So they have to live in a neighborhood not too far away. So
a place not too far away that they can afford with what they're paid by the folks who are living in the swanky establishments.
Precisely.
Right?
Precisely.
This is what we have. That's what happens. No. They're not middle class.
Unless one looks at this problem, and I guess there are those who have, there are those whose duty it is to do so. You and Habitat are experts in some of these matters.
Yeah.
Now, looking into it, determining what solutions are possible, viable, affordable, and then implementing them. That last bit is always a bit tricky, isn't it? You do all these things, hold conferences, talk to people, oh man, God, do everything possible.
Except build the thing.
Except build the thing to its conclusion.
Thank you.
Yes.
But I mean, I have questions. Why has it taken... Look, if I start asking my question...
You have to ask the question. There's something
Why has it taken so long?
Competing interests.
Why?
Competing interests. There's always someone somewhere who has an interest, and that interest is tied in with someone else who also has an interest, and that vicious cycle goes on.
Then something I have just realized as you've said those words is that then this upgrading or this... elimination of slums will be fought, because there are those who benefit seriously, not severely. There are those who benefit seriously by having some of these slums in place.
Take a
and
look
they don't
at
live
a place
there.
like Toy Market, okay, Woodley Estates. That entire piece of land where you find people selling their wares is actually supposed to be government land, but what you'll find, it was subdivided a heck of a long time ago, and there are people who own pieces of that land.
That belongs to government.
Yes, it's supposed to belong to the county, really. So there are very many pieces of land that are in that current state. Now, until and unless I see a determined effort to rectify this, genuinely rectify it, all the land that was intended as public areas in the east of the Nairobi River are reclaimed as such, irrespective of what was built on it. Unless that such a move is made, any talk about trying to do these wonderful things of eradicating slums, it will be talk, there'll be some half measures, and that'll be just about it. So it will be a continuing conversation. Every new government comes in and they'll come up with some plan of how they believe they are going to eradicate slums. And they'll make some move, and that'll be just it. So, vicious cycle continues.
Vexing my spirit since 1965. Okay, CT, one more story from you, or?
The big rise of big government in Ruto's starts second year. So, let me read this again. I'm reading my own things today, by the way.
Okay.
The rise of big government as Ruto starts his second year. Big spending on social plans signals heavier tax burden, private business at risk of being crowded out. You know, this is a story that cannot be spoken of and concluded in 2 minutes.
No.
It is a conversation that we must bring in people who understand these things better than us, that we can look at this thing. And not just a bunch of people who study economics. No. This one, you want economists, you want planners.
You
want sociologists. You want people who actually understand the 360 of this particular matter, because it is not a simple one.
No.
Okay? The government has a duty. The government has obligations. The government needs money. The government feels they should tax. We get that. But what else are they doing to ensure that there's money that you can raise, that there's taxable income? Because if it's the same income, it'll get to a point where there'll be nothing.
There'll be nothing left.
Yep.
That's just the truth.
We are now in a position where we're already beginning to experience what economists call diminishing returns. The more you tax, the less you actually get. So it doesn't serve the purpose. You can bring tax policemen, you can bring tax paramilitary. It's not sincerely. Yeah. It is really not going to change, because there's a bunch of people against the entire country. Do they really have time to think and figure out how people are going to go about trying to avoid paying taxes? After all, they're the ones who know they're making their money, not you. Anyway, the government has its work cut out for it.
Big time. And it'd be interesting to see what the next couple of months look like in terms of that. let's talk about education really quickly, because we're coming into 7 o'clock and we're having an education conversation for a couple of hours today. Kupet has said that they're objecting the reforms violating employment rights of teachers. So some of the reports and the reforms that are suggested in the report of the Presidential Working Party on education reforms, the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers has opposed some of those recommendations, and they say that they could curtail the responsibilities of the teacher service commissions and impede the employment rights of educators. So they're saying that they see a fundamental problem with this. Speaking in Nandi South during the union's annual general meeting, Kupet National Chairman Omboko Milemba and Secretary General Akelo Misori said certain proposals should be removed, not even considered, removed completely. Milemba said TSC has played a crucial role in employment and supervision within the education sector, and any attempts to limit its authority would infringe upon the rights of teachers. So they're saying certain recommendations must be carefully examined, especially those that interfere with the TSC. The TSC has been put in there as a commission when it's working with the hiring and training of teachers. If you want to curtail their power, you're curtailing development in the education sector. He said proposals had been introduced without seeking input from the education stakeholders regarding the management and supervision of teachers. So now you want to come and tell us without having told us before, essentially. The National Assembly also expressed concerns last week about the implementation of education reforms without the approval of Parliament. So we did see that the Speaker said to the Majority Leader, Kimani Ichung'wah, please take 2 weeks. You people should go and look at this thing and then come back and talk to us. But for now, as it is, you did not seek parliamentary approval. We cannot just accept it like that. So it looks like this one is going to go through the ringers of conversation before it comes out. And everybody's lending their voice at this point to see what can be done. So Spice FM turned 4 years old in August, and we're saying thank you for being a vital part of that with us. So how about you join us on the 7th of October at the Gong Hills Hotel, where you can meet some spiced hosts, some Spice cast, and it'll be a fun party from 7 p.m. rather, till very late. Spice FM is 4, and we want to celebrate with you. Details of that later. Good morning, folks. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The United Nations Security Council will today vote on a resolution that will see a non-UN multinational force led by Kenya deployed to Haiti to combat gangs and restore security. The Council will develop the framework for and authorize a one-year deployment of an international force with a review after 9 months. Caribbean nations and members of the CARICOM regional group, including Jamaica, the Bahamas and Antigua and Barbuda, have also expressed their readiness to support the mission that will be led by Kenya's force. The Bahamas has committed 150 persons to support the multinational force, while Jamaica said it cannot reach the 1,000 offered by Kenya. It will give what they can. The US drafted resolution says the force would help build capacity of local police planning, conducting joint security support operations, and also secure critical infrastructure sites and transit locations such as the airports, ports and key intersections in Haiti. Now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has asked the Meru County leaders to resolve the escalating leadership wrangles which are threatening development in the area. Speaking in Igembe North constituency, Meru County, the Deputy President said the leadership of Kenya Kwanza is looking forward to peaceful resolution of the conflict between Governor Kawira Mwangaza and other leaders of the county, including her Deputy Isaac Mutuma.
Tumeongea na deputy governor, tumeongea na governor, tumeongea na hao viongozi na tumekubaliana hii ni shida ya Meru. Hao viongozi, watu ya kanisa wameuliza Rais William Ruto na mimi tukae kando, muketi and decide what is good for Meru. Wakati kifika nitachukua bendera niseme huyu na huyu ndio wenye kugawanya hii jamii wakitumika na maadui wa jamii hii.
Teachers Union NAT has now prepared a bill that will ensure that teachers who are fired before their retirement are paid their pension for the period they served. Speaking in Kirinyaga County, Secretary General Collins Oyu said many teachers have been dismissed without being compensated for the time they served, and thus many end up in poverty.
Of the Pensions Act 189. When you go to the Code of Regulations, which is also a legal document, a dismissed teacher does not take anything home. Our proposal, which is in Parliament as we speak now, when a teacher is dismissed, pay the teacher the number of years that the teacher works. Not unless you are telling teachers to sign their death sentence the moment they lose their job.
He also warned that teachers who get involved with students will be arrested and prosecuted. Now, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission returned public land worth 345 million shillings. EACC South Rift Valley boss Godfrey Oyuge has said that the commission has returned the property after winning the court case against the land grabbers. According to Oyugi, there are some people who, along with company managers, had grabbed the land from the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development in Nakuru City. The 5-acre land was returned after EACC filed a case in court against 3 suspects: Saleh Chepkole, Titus Kipkemboi, former Land Commissioner Wilson Gashanja, and 2 private companies.
EACC has recovered about 5 acres of government land belonging to the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development within Nakuru Town Centre, which had been grabbed by private individuals through private companies and proxies. The land was fraudulently allocated by former Commissioner of Lands, Wilson Gachanja, to 2 individuals, namely Saleh Chepkole and Titus Kipkemboi, who subsequently transferred to private companies, namely Pembeni and Liberty Assurance Company.
Oyugi has called on Kenyans who have grabbed public land to surrender the said properties voluntarily instead of going through the court process.
Now, the Commission is currently pursuing the rectification of the Nakuru Land Register by the registrar to have new title issued in the name of the government. To all persons holding titles to grabbed government land in this region to voluntarily surrender the same to the Commission instead of waiting for costly and lengthy court processes, which will nevertheless see them surrender the property at the end of the day.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
All right, good morning. It's a few minutes after 7 o'clock. What's happening on the roads today? We're looking at some movement, and it's quite some on Jago Road as you're coming towards Landis and then out towards the city. And we'll see movement then go towards Lusaka Road. It'll find its way then ending up on Mombasa Road, or in the other direction, going towards Landis and then touching on Kamkunji at the roundabout, and again heading into Haile Selassie. It's busy on the Thika Superhighway. There's a lot of movement, and it's not holding up anywhere yet until you get to the Pangani underpass, and then you'll see that hold up of bumper to bumper as you're trying to get towards Muranga Road in one direction or Wangari Maathai in the other. Kiambu Road is also busy. It's packing up as you get to Muthaiga Square, and that'll be busy for some time. Coming out of Westlands, not too bad. A little bit of movement on James Gishuru. We'll keep an eye on things and see how they open up closer to traffic hour when it all begins this Monday. Let's talk in the meantime on Spice FM KE on X.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your...
7 o'clock on this second day of October, getting into the last quarter of the year, and Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Okoh and CT Muga with you, getting into the second hour of it this morning. And as we do, the 3rd of October is an interesting day because it's when the African Regional Judicial Dialogue is taking place on transnational organized crime and illicit financial flows. That'll take place in Kenya from the 3rd to the 5th of October. So the dialogue focuses on the role of courts in the prevention and response to transnational organized crime and illicit financial flows. The conference has been convened by the Kenya Judiciary Academy and its partners, and it will be officially opened by Chief Justice Martha Koome Tuesday, 3rd October 2023 in Mombasa, and it will provide a platform to policy leadership to improve institutional justice. So, where will you be? It doesn't matter because you can follow online. The proceedings will take place from the 3rd to the 5th, and during the forum, the Judiciary Training Institute and judges from 21 African countries will focus experiences and discuss challenges and potential solutions in the adjudication of the different forms of transnational organized crime and illicit financial flows. You can catch the conference live online and on TV. Catch that before you run away. And when we run, we'll be running in the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon that takes place on the 29th of October. I'm telling you, this October has things. And here we are with the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. City, have you registered?
No, not yet. But have no fear.
City's here.
Well, apart from being here, I have every intention to walk. And to walk, you need to register.
This is true. So if you're like CT and you're going to walk, there's a family fun run, which is essentially a walk. It's 5Ks, 10Ks. There's 21K and the 42K. And so what are we talking about here? It's the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. It's back again for the 20th edition, which takes place on the 29th of October. What do you need to do? Get on to www.nairobimarathon.com. You register for 2,000 shillings and you're well on your way to participating come the 29th. There's also the virtual run, which can happen. All of this is happening, and it's going towards the Future Makers program, which gives young people, especially girls and those with disability, the chance to earn, learn, and grow. Log on today and get into it. All right. We should be having a conversation this morning with former journalist turned member of parliament, Mohamed Ado. And as we wait for him to get into the studio this morning, we're just going to recap on a number of things as we do. So, CT, earlier, we were talking about the safety of children on campus.
Yes,
the truth of the matter is that 17 and 18-year-olds, even as they get into university, are children. They're young adults as they get to a higher age. But I think the question that we place in terms of what's happening, and this is from the headlines that we saw in one of the dailies today, that too many children, university-going age, have died, and not enough questions are being asked, and not enough answers are being given as to exactly what has happened to them. When I saw the headline, I saw it as, okay, it's another headline. And I think I too was guilty at that moment of saying, okay, this is something else that has happened. But it's opening up our minds, and one would hope that it opens up our minds even deeper into what is really going on. So several things could have happened to these children, is it not? Somebody would have died at the hands of somebody else. And the immediate question that rises thereafter is, so what kind of security mechanism has been put in these institutions to ensure the safety of these children who come to tertiary education institutions? Number two, there was a health issue. All right. So again, brings to question, what happens or what has been happening with the health situation of the university institution? Emergency services, have they been put in place? What exactly is going on? All right. We've also heard that there have been issues of suicide on campus, and that is why some of these young adults have turned up dead. What really has happened to them? And so we asked the question, counseling for people who have gone from one life to a totally different life. Is there adequate measure of support for them when it comes to psychosocial, psychological support? Is that actually happening? And these are the questions that we start to ask. And these are the questions that we must ask. And these are the solutions that we should, and there are solutions that we should be looking for. But we are met with, unfortunately, these students have died for such and such a reason, and that is where it ends. And I'm saying this morning categorically that it cannot end there. What value are we placing on life? What value are we placing on the hope that rests in children who've gone through education systems for 12, 13, 15 years and then now are getting to university and then the life is snuffed out? How much value and importance are we putting on that? And from what we see, not much. And I've been asked the question, why are you so upset? And I'm asking, why aren't you?
You know this? The first time that this matter of students dying came into the full glare of the country was the horrific events that took place on the 16th of April 2015. The Garissa University attack. Targeted university students, and they died in large numbers. Okay? Now, that we now relate to as though it was historical, but is it really historical for those who lost their loved ones? 148 people died, and injured were 76. Now, a lot of stories abound as to where the police were. There's supposedly an army barracks not too far away from there. And gunshots can be heard miles and miles and miles and miles away. So, the story of Garissa is inconclusive. What could have happened, what didn't happen, is inconclusive. And you draw a parallel with what happened at Dusit Hotel, where the response was swift and immediate. You ask, is it that the lives of these particular students didn't matter, that someone didn't understand that if there was a university in Garissa, that the likelihood of their being prone to attack was high? And if intelligence reports had been given, because intelligence reports, by the way, may not be told to us, but those in the know may have it. And if indeed they did, what did they do with it? Now, talking about the safety of students who are in the university, beyond admission and beyond ensuring that a student secures a safe place in which to live, the question has to be asked and repeatedly asked, what is it that is done to ensure the safety of these students, these children, these fellow citizens? What is it? Because again, that discussion, if it's been had, it's a peripheral discussion and it isn't in details. Because any more stories like this, then we suddenly begin to feel the university is a dangerous place to take your child. Okay? And you know, it's not just left to students dying within the campuses. We've had road accidents that have actually killed university students. A university vehicle crashing, a head-on collision with another vehicle, universities die. A building collapsed in Muranga, university students died. I mean, the death of a person, any person living, even if it's a child, is a massive loss.
Is it too sensationalist to ask? Because look at the numbers that we're looking at today, or rather look at some of the faces that we're looking at today, and which is what brought this up essentially. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and those are just the ones who make, you know, the front cover with their faces. Is it too sensationalist to ask, is a university institution a safe place for students to be in if 7 out of millions have died? And I think this is where the question comes in, like, you're being a little bit too sensationalist.
And I asked the question, for me, it is 1. It's not 7. The cutoff point is 1. If one student dies, you know, there was a time, once upon a time at the University of Nairobi, the main campus, when every once in a while you'd hear a student has died from drowning. Someone jumps into the pool thinking that they can swim, and they can't swim, and they drown.
Right.
Okay? That was just about it. Or some accident happens, some student is passing by There's a famous story of a young lady called Awinja. Passed by a building, enough safety, an engineering student. The stone fell on her head, she died.
Lord.
I mean, it's not that we haven't had incidents, but the reason why too much of a fuss hasn't been made is because the stories were few and far between. And the causes, you realized, were beyond the students themselves, in a sense. If you can't swim, you know you can't swim. Huh? If something falls on your head, you weren't expecting it, but it does. Enough safety measures were not taken. But this issue of suicide, someone coming into a campus and hacking a student to death in the full glare of the public.
And questions are there not asked to satisfaction.
No.
In order to get certain solutions or answers, at the very least, answers into what may have happened. And then asking you to say, all right, follow up in terms of action for implementation. What has actually happened to ensure that this is actually a safe place? Was it somebody who was targeted from where she came until that campus? Was somebody waiting for her, lurking in the shadows? Or do you have somebody who is just rampant in their behavior and is going to hack the next person who comes along? Those questions have to be asked. They're not comfortable. Somebody may see that you're hopping on a particular issue and staying there for a little bit too long. But let's take a few steps back, all right? Take somebody who their first experience with an urban city is when they were coming to university. Parents never been there. Maybe visited, maybe heard of every now and then, but your first full living experience, night and day, is when you come to university. You've been through school, primary school, you've been through secondary school, you've finished. You were called to then go to the city to be able to go to university. The hope that this is something that others can then follow in your footsteps and do then rises eternal, springs eternal because of your experience. Your parents, your siblings, your extended family, your society at large, your community at large that you've come from, and they know, yes, CT has gone to school, isn't it? You arrive there, and a few days, within days of you arriving there, what has happened to you? They welcome you back home in a box. Is that not enough for certain answers to be given in terms of what happened? What priority must be put? What value must then be placed on life for us to say, okay, in as much as it's a loss, but the way in which you've gone about explaining it and telling us exactly what happened, then we can also see that we are together.
If you tell us exactly what it is or the measures you put in place to ensure safety, this whole discussion takes on a completely different turn.
Completely.
But we don't know.
And that not knowing.
It's unspoken of.
Yes. The not knowing, what does it do? The not knowing guarantees that people are going to fill that vacuum with speculation.
Oh, yes.
You don't tell us, we're going to fill it. That you don't care, or that there are other things that are your priority, or that, you've just focused on 1, 2, 3 other things. What is going to be? And if we don't start looking for solutions, if we don't start making those solutions in terms of their finding important, we're going to have more than a crisis. It's going to be wanton, and if we're not ready to deal with it,
we already have a making of one, don't we?
Yes, we do. The crisis that we see it is not the only one that's happening in the country, and quite a number of those at the same time. But in the education sector, we are not, in this case, actually, we are spoiled for choice. And our guest for the hour is here at this time. Mohamed Ado is the Member of Parliament for Wajir South constituency, and he is here. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great.
Thank
you. How are you?
I'm fine. We waited for you, and then now you're here. Are you all right this Monday morning? Are you sure?
I am very much all right. Thank you. It's just the Nairobi troubles and traffic and all that stuff.
Yeah. Nairobi traffic can do a thing on you, can't it? All right, we're glad that you're here, and we've been talking about crises that are boiling in different places, and we're talking about a teacher crisis in northeastern Kenya. And even as you do, look, we're going to welcome you, first of all, to Kenya's biggest conversation. You're in the hot seat this morning, and even as you do, CT is going to welcome you with today's proverb.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the country of Uganda. People who live together cannot fail to have quarrels.
People who live together cannot fail to have quarrels.
It's a good one.
It is.
It is.
What does it mean to you, Mweshima?
It means that conflict is part of nature, and that there will be issues and quarreling among people who live together. But it's the way they handle those quarrels that matters. And to stay a family, to stay a group, to stay a unit, to stay a community, you need to make those quarrels go away by finding the best way to resolve them. Because you still have to live together anyway.
Indeed. That's true. We're looking at crises, like I said. We know you from a former life whereby you would report on these crises or crises like these, where you would be on the other side telling the story of them. And so maybe that's not too different from what we're going to be talking about today, isn't it? From your days as a reporting journalist and to now as a member of parliament, and then trying to go towards legislature and policy making and things like that. So in northeastern Kenya, we've been told many things about teachers and what they face, and we're staring down the whole of an education crisis, in my opinion, in this country, and teachers are not left out of it. Give us an overview of what's happening from what you've seen, what you've understood to be the issues when it comes to teachers and their wherewithal, their well-being and their career path from this part of the country.
Well, it's a big problem. The teachers' crisis in northeastern Kenya is a big problem. So much so that we are raising a generation, which I call the lost generation, who go to school every day, go through the steps of schooling, arrive in the morning, but do not much in school because of lack of teachers or the absence of teachers in their schools. About a couple of years, 2.5 years to 3 years ago, the Teacher Service Commission brought back about 5,000 teachers from the region. This was following the attacks, the unfortunate attacks that we've seen. They said they were doing that for their own security, but that left the schools exposed with very little teachers, minimal teachers. In some of the schools in my constituency, you'll find 1 or 2 teachers manning a school that has got 8 up to grade 8, some of them with 2 or 3 streams. And you can imagine they would not be even able to keep the discipline. To urge the children to keep discipline, let alone give them lessons. So it is a crisis, and we're not blaming anyone because insecurity is insecurity. But again, when you look at how the teachers have been acting, I find it a bit irresponsible, to say the least, because first of all, you go and seek a job as a teacher in northeastern Kenya. 6 months to a year later, you want to get out of the place. I know life is hard in that region. I know it's not the stuff they're used to. Life is not the same way it is back in their home counties. But again, it is also part of the country. And as Kenyans, when you sign up to a job anywhere in the country, you're supposed to go and do that job. So I find a bit unnerving and a bit, I don't know how to call it, is the teachers seeking the jobs and then wanting to come back and going to any lengths to try and come back and get out of those jobs. The other day I was at TSC headquarters. I saw so many of the teachers from Mandera with vuvuzelas asking for their mass transfer out of the region. And that has left the Kenyan children in that part of the country exposed. We are raising a lost generation in that part of the country.
Mheshimiwa, what are the reasons why teachers who then have taken up a call of duty in a particular area, doesn't matter where, actually does matter in this case, that they've taken up the call to teach in these areas, what are the reasons that they're giving as to why they're asking for transfers?
Because they want to come back to their home counties. Because there are no job openings for teachers in their home counties, and there are job openings in northeastern. Majority of them, I would say, want to take up jobs there so that they get into the system, and upon getting into the system, they come back. I'm not belittling the issue of insecurity. It is there. In some parts of the region, yes, it is there. But again, in those same areas of Northeastern where there is insecurity, you'll find the stonemasons, the quarry workers, the business people, the hawkers, all coming from other counties in Kenya. What is this insecurity that only teachers are facing?
You know, there's a phrase that is often used about chickens coming home to roost. One of the economists argue that infrastructure is the cornerstone that incentivizes development. Now, if you have an entire region that was deliberately neglected for decades, literally, roads that everybody took for granted exist, electricity that everybody took for granted in other parts of the country, water, just normal services. And then you get into a decade where there's an attempt to try and make up for lost time. And within that time, the neglect has spurned on other social matters that you probably hadn't foreseen, but it left the people in those areas vulnerable to very many things.
Absolutely, you're right.
You see, so now, anyone who's traveled up those roads going to Ajiro, or whether going to Bandera, you will find that because of the tarmac, wherever it is that it has reached as we currently speak, or areas that there was no tarmac roads, one thing that was heightened was security and safety. Just the building of a road. At the moment that road wasn't there and you have to travel slowly, you are a prime target for attack. Long before Al-Shabaab were even known. Now these are cases that one heard in Tana River, as you're going towards Lamu. Al-Shabaab hadn't even been heard of. They were just regular homegrown bandits who understood that this was a way of life. Now, Al-Shabaab and their ilk simply highlighted the situation. Now, that having been said, the question that keeps ringing in my mind every time I read this, and I hear of it, and I'm told about this, and I discuss it, is what exactly has the government done? Because this is a national government problem. It's not a county government issue. What exactly has the national government done to ensure that they don't only just talk about about security, but they ensure that there is security? What has the government done?
Well, the government says it's doing much, but nothing much visible on the ground when it comes to issues of infrastructure.
But sure, if nothing is, if not much has been seen, then it means precisely that nothing has been done. Because the only way you determine something has been done is if you see it, isn't it? This isn't an existential thing where we can feel and sense. We're developing something you have to see. You can't smell it, you can't taste it. You have to see it first.
The issue of infrastructure is a big issue and a huge one for the people of not just Northeastern, but the whole of Northern Kenya. There's been very little investment, as you said, aptly, in that part of the country for most of the past 5 or 6 decades. And that, as you said, is having a toll on the people, is having a big impact on security or the lack of it. And I always say there are two Kenyas. That Kenya, which is not aware of the other part of Kenya, which has most of the stuff that people need, infrastructure, schools, teachers, mention everything. And that part of the country where there's a lack of almost everything. Now, since devolution began, there's a lot of chest thumping among government operatives that, hey, we've given you your fair share of the national cake. But is that enough? No, it's not. What the region needs is a huge investment in infrastructure, a huge investment in education, because it's only education that can, in the long run, push back against these extremists and people who want to cause harm in our country.
I hear what you're saying, Weshima. We're going to go to a break in a bit, but maybe something to mull over the break is, so with what has been given, to these areas over the last, let's just take 10 years. The question then comes front and center, what has been done? You know, if we can split it into two, there's money that has gone for development to these areas. What has been done with what has been given? Sure, there's more. There's much more that's needed. Nobody can doubt that. But the question will be asked in terms of accounting for what has been sent out, what has actually been done with that. So let's look at that when we come back from the break. Mohamed Ado, the Member of Parliament for Wajir constituency, is here with us this morning. We are looking at some conversations with the teacher crisis. Why do people want to come back? And what needs to be done on a larger scale to make sure that education and other things are developed in this area? Wajir South constituency, sorry about that. And so the Employer of the Year awards are back this year, even as we go to a break. It's an initiative of the Federation of Kenya Employers, seeks to set organizations which put people at the core of their businesses and have implemented policies, systems and processes that guarantee that you can create and sustain enterprise competitiveness, making sure that folks will have an opportunity for resilient productivity, improvement, alongside industrial peace and harmony. It creates a platform for identifying and recognizing and promoting excellence in corporate performance, people management and labor relations practices amongst employers in Kenya. It's going to take place on the 6th of October at the Safari Park Hotel from 6 p.m. This is something that you can get involved in. You can log on to www.fke-kenya.org. All employers are welcome to participate and contact the Federation in order to see how you can do that. The EYA Awards back this year, supported by Safaricom, GIZ, ILO, BAT, NCBA, and NITA.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Na hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, looking at clear conditions in Nairobi this morning, highs of 28 and lows of 13. It's clear at 14 in Nakuru to go to highs of 26, and at 15 it's partly sunny in Nyeri with highs of 26. 14 and clear in Eldoret, highs of 25, and partly sunny at 23 in Mombasa with highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 30 as well in a partly sunny Malindi. It's 20 and clear in Kisumu, highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 29 in a partly cloudy Kakamega at 18. It's a cloudy day in Kampala at 20, highs of 27, and Dar es Salaam is sunny at 23, 9 degrees and cloudy in Johannesburg. 22 will be the high, and 31 will be the high in a partly cloudy Lagos at 25. It's 26 and cloudy in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 36 and lows of 25.
Spice up your life.
It's a busy morning. Doesn't really matter where you look today, whether you're on Jogo Road, getting out towards the city, going towards Lusaka, or then in the other direction, Landis, and then Haile Selassie. It's going to be busy. We're also looking at movement on the Thika Superhighway, coming in heavy towards that Survey Drift, and on Kiambu Road as well, getting towards Muthaiga Square. Are you coming out of Westlands? There's a little bit of movement here and there, touching on Wayaki Way from James Gishuru, over that drift as well. And we'll see some movement coming onto Langata Road. It'll split as you go towards Raila Odinga Way, or you go towards Aerodrome and then out towards Uhuru Highway. So it's getting into the start of traffic hour. It's normal movement for Monday morning. Let's wait and see how it opens up later. But for now, you should be fine. Anything sticky, let us know and we'll talk. Spice FM KE on X.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Top of the hour. Our conversation this morning is with Member of Parliament for Wajir South constituency, Mohamed Ado. And we got into the break asking the questions. Can there be accountability for the money that has been sent? Because the cry has been, Weshimiwa, that, there's no development. There's been chest thumping by government, as you've said, of the things that they're doing, but you can't see anything on the ground. So hadn't the question rather go towards those who've been responsible for development? What have you actually done? In the shillings that you have received, what have you done to ensure that we don't have these things that we're talking about, whereby teachers come, they take up a job, and then they go away? Because the security mechanisms have not been implemented by the money that has been given. So before we get to can more money come, how about you tell us what has been done with what has been given you at that point?
I'll be very frank with you. And honestly, I cannot defend the indefensible. That money has been lost. And in corruption is a reality no one can deny. The winner takes it all attitude of some of the governors in northeastern Kenya, where they use the county funds as a slush fund, is practically there for everyone to see. I'm not going to defend that. I'm not also going to say that nothing has been done, because a lot has been done by the county governments. But I don't know where the disconnect is. Maybe it is lack of a vision, or the feeling that somebody has to develop those parts where his family or his clan comes from. The region still has a long way to go, despite billions of shillings being poured into it through the devolution funds.
Think for a second, Mheshimiwa. People who study anthropology, sociology, these social sciences or behavioral sciences will tell you that there are direct correlations between certain things. One, if you look at poverty cycles, whether it is brought about by drought, whether it's brought about by simple direct government policy neglect, whether it is brought about by whatever circumstances you may think of, one of the things that it entrenches in people is what they have grown up to understand as the traditional ways of life. So, if resource or the absence of resource was an avenue for conflict, it doesn't go away.
So true. You have a point there.
When you have money coming in, that same way of looking at things will now be at that level of the county.
It takes the same avenues.
It does. So depending on who is governor and where he comes from, the same traditional mindset. It takes a very long time. It takes a visionary leader to actually sow the seeds of uniformity where people can declare and say, this person treats everybody fairly.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. But also there's this little matter of taking into account and understanding the norms by which people understand development. I remember having a conversation once with some commissioners of the Commission of Revenue Allocation.
Yes.
It was a very insightful conversation. I'm not going to mention the county, but it's northeastern. And they said when they went there, the thing they found surprising was their understanding of devolution, if you look at it purely from an academic perspective, was very good.
Yes.
Because money came, clans were called on the leaders, and we were told, okay, everybody gets their share. So thereafter, you decide what you're going to do with your money. Okay? Now, whether this story was true or not, or whether they're giving me some grand drama, I thought to myself, it makes sense. But I asked, did they have a development plan as to what it is they considered their priorities and how they're going to use the money? He said they did. I said, okay, now, was anything left in the kitty? Because the central government of a county has to be responsible for certain things. Exactly. You can't leave it to everybody. Now, it became fuzzy at that particular point. What am I saying? If you look around the country and you look at the way county governments around the country have handled the monies given to them, Northeastern is not an exception.
Yeah. But they don't live in Al Island. They're still part of Kenya.
Not in isolation.
Precisely. Yes, not in isolation.
Precisely. You would assume that if you come from a county that had been marginalized, there'd be a great need for you to uplift your
exactly.
people. But then, yes, go ahead, please.
I mean, and that is the crux of the matter, because when you are given the responsibility to lead a community that has been marginalized, that has had no investment from the center for so long, I think an extra layer of responsibility falls on your shoulder.
It does, actually.
To ensure that the people get most of what you're given.
Yes.
To do things for them.
Yes.
I mean,
and so it's not enough to say that for teachers, for example, who are in Wajir, to get an extra hardship allowance, it doesn't suffice. What we're essentially saying is fix or establish the roads. Let's make sure that if you have a school in central, western, eastern Kenya, you have one in northern Kenya.
Yes.
That you have roads that are pliable in northern Kenya, that you have security apparatus set up in northern Kenya. So we're saying that, okay, we're saying that an additional allowance is not enough, but that the infrastructure that is around the country is what is required in this part of the country as well.
I mean,
it's very simply so. Is that not what we're saying?
An extra allowance for the teachers,
doesn't cut it.
It's just band-aid. It's not going to cut it. What we need is the recruitment, the training and recruitment of more local teachers who understand the terrain, who can live within that society, who identify with them, and who would stay there for as long as it takes.
Are there enough people who are interested in teaching?
Yes. I mean, before there was this myth that Somalis in Northeastern are not interested in taking up the teaching profession. When I came to office, I announced a scholarship for teachers, teacher trainees. I announced a scholarship, full scholarship for anyone who wants to pursue teaching. And we were actually overwhelmed by the response. At the moment, we have more than 280 trainees from Wajir South in colleges and universities across the country, getting diplomas and degrees in education. It is possible in every nook and cranny of the region.
Let's assume.
And it's not that the students are not interested in pursuing teaching.
Okay.
They are.
Let's live in Wonderland for a moment and say that those who are responsible for releasing the strings of the purse then are not aware to the extent that this, situation has gotten. Okay? Members of Parliament then, at that level, do we see that there is continuous and robust agitation for the attention that is needed in this area to be brought to the fore? And I'm not talking about before the plenary one day and then it doesn't happen again until after Parliament resumes. I'm talking about a serious, repetitive, unwavering, not getting tired, deliberate and sustained agitation of these issues on the floor of the House until two things happen. Somebody takes notice, and number two, something is done. Do we see that? Is it happening?
It is happening, with almost every member of Parliament from the region speaking loudly and as loudly as possible about the problem with teachers and the education crisis in Northeastern. We do, but it's almost always falling on deaf ears until we've had to take matters into our own hands and start using, and it's rightly the only way of doing it, because we've not been getting as much support as possible from the quarters were supposed to act on this. We're now forced to use the Constituency Development Fund to train teachers. And I think it's the best way to do, given the circumstances and how, obstinate the authorities have been.
You don't need to apologize.
I'm not apologizing.
No, don't.
Yes.
Don't even skirt on the periphery of apology when it comes to such a matter. Because if you look at the development of education, and especially education institutions in this country, where communities have made progress, it wasn't a government effort.
Yes,
it was individuals deciding they're going to build Harambee schools.
Exactly. And that's I studied through a Harambee school. The first 3 years of schooling I studied under a tree until our parents had to come and do Harambee to build us our first classes at grade 3.
The big difference, though, is that with successive governments, depending on who was in power, some regions benefited better than others because the Harambee schools became government schools.
Exactly.
And there were many.
Sure. But I must ask you, what's the difference then with teachers? Because you said something very important. Traders, businessmen from different parts of the country are still able to come and thrive in these areas.
And are not running away.
Isn't it? And are not running away.
No.
They come, they do their business. They live in Wajir. They live in Mandera. They live in Turkana. They live in these areas.
They do.
They do.
Yes.
They raise families.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes. And
they
their
go
kids
home,
go through the same schools.
Their kids go to those schools.
Yes.
So why is it that business people who work will stay, but that teachers ask to leave? What's happening here? Why is teachers specifically? And perhaps if we look at that, then we can see where a solution might come. Because what is the special thing with teachers?
There's so many conspiracy theories, and I'm not going to delve into them. All I'm saying is that there is a need to look into that issue wholesomely, and there is more to it than meets the eye. Because why are teachers the only ones feeling the heat when it comes to insecurity? Where are they? The other day, a letter was written by a government official talking about my constituency, which is one of the safest in Northeastern. I share one of the longest borders any constituency in Kenya has with Somalia. Probably the longest is the one my constituency has with Somalia.
Okay.
But because of cross-border collaboration between the two communities living on either side of the border, we have managed to have collaboration between our people, the Kenyan people on this side, and the ones on the other side, and we have had successes in terms of ensuring that the region, the constituency remains safe. Yet somebody in a government office chose to write a letter warning of impending attacks on schools. Impending attacks on schools, which saw many of the teachers in schools in my constituency taking the night bus out. Some of these things make you think that this could be deliberate.
And it was not true?
Absolutely untrue. False alarm. Yet it has been written. And I have the copy.
So then again, Mheshimiwa, one must ask, because look, it could be conspiratorial indeed, as you say, but I think it is important to look into the underbelly of some of these things. What reason would someone, anyone, government official or otherwise, have in sending a letter of such great magnitude? Because you could see the immediate effect of that.
Yes.
People got on buses, disappeared.
And left, yes.
What reason would one have to
But at the
make
same
such
time,
a statement?
it's just the teachers taking the buses, not the stonemasons.
So what's going on?
I think not the hawkers, not the traders, not the people who are selling vegetables in the market, who are from other counties. What is it? Somebody somewhere needs to look critically at this, and the investigative agencies.
What could be the issue, Mheshimiwa? And I think we maybe need to look at that. What could be the issue? Because why? It doesn't make sense otherwise. Those who stay are human beings, just like teachers.
Exactly.
Why are they not leaving?
The why is what we need to find out.
So maybe it isn't actually then an infrastructure issue, because the people who stay there are still staying.
I mean,
we realize the importance of having good roads. We know that. We know the importance of having built institutions where children can learn.
I was in primary school more than 30 years ago, and my teachers were from all walks of life, all parts of Kenya. I mean, infrastructure was worse off then than it is now. It's not about infrastructure. It's not about how far-flung the place is. It's not about, the hardship or at all there is any hardship. If, it's nothing got to do with their life there.
So what's the chatter?
I think it's political.
To what benefit or unto what end?
We have to look at this together to find out. I will not use those things that are being said down there. I'll just.
I will
be open-minded.
I will venture into it if you want, and I will quote. There's a Victorian novelist by the name of Anthony Trollope. I'm going to paraphrase what he said. One of the things that he mentioned, he said, human nature will not endure. Okay, somebody who in the race of life you had rendered to a certain position overtaking you, said human nature will not endure it. Now, apply this notion to just individual life on a daily basis. People have this tendency of thinking that certain communities belong to a certain position in society and shouldn't budge from it. So when they budge from it, it defies the narrative by which many of these people have identified themselves for centuries. Now that is something that human nature will not endure. Now, I have said it in the broadest of terms, and you can use it individually, even in communities. The jokes that are made, the country from which this writer came from. If you listen to the jokes that the English made about the Irish, they're derogatory, or about the Welsh, or about the Scots.
Yes.
Same. Bring it home. How we categorize our own citizens, the people from this region, people from this. Now, so long as it remains banter, you may think it is harmless, but it isn't harmless. Because over time, it becomes the captive and it becomes the dominant narrative by which people identify everyone who comes from that particular place. Now, unfortunately, human nature, when looked at from an individual perspective, seems academic enough, but when an entire community develops and has that attitude, then it means it's an attitude that they have against another community in its entirety, without looking specifically into what it is that community represents. Simple enough.
Mheshimiwa, the 280 teachers that are in training at the moment, the hope is that eventually they will come back
and fill the void
and start to teach. Is the hope also that they too will not want to leave? And if they don't, then what would make them stay? Let's not look at the conspiracy, but let's look at the other side of it. So the assumption is that because they are indigents and they've been trained as teachers, that they will come back after their training and stay. Is that the hope?
Yes, that's the hope, and we believe that's what's going to happen, because that's where they come from. They will be teaching their brothers and sisters.
Okay.
They will be teaching their cousins. They will be teaching people who, they have a sense of belonging for, and a region that they call their own. It's part of a country that is theirs. So they will, and because they've been trained with public funds, we've also bonded them, and they've given the assurance that they will go back and teach.
Do we find that there is an interest from the locals of Northeastern, the residents, the indigents, to actually contribute, whether it's on a personal business level, to contribute towards the development of these areas themselves, not come and develop other areas, but take their hard-earned resources and put them back into the area where they're from? Would this make a difference?
Yes, that is a constant thing we keep telling our people, that they should go back and invest in the region, open up schools there, build some of these buildings they're building in the capital and other places back home, invest in businesses back home. But again, this is a simple issue of microeconomics. These are people who are investing in places where they know they were going to get a return for their money. And that's what is actually driving them. It's not the fact that they abhor where they call home and their region, their home region and all that. It's all an issue of supply and demand, basic microeconomics. So, but we are urging them, and we've been urging for a long time, for locals from Northeastern to invest back home.
Because we can see them investing in other parts of the country.
A great number of them are doing that. People see the bustling business community and very hardworking Somali traders in Nairobi. Developing Nairobi. But they're also developing back home. If you look at it, if you take a picture of Garissa 10 years ago and Garissa today, it's a totally different town. The same with Wajir, the same with Mandera. And the people doing it are the same people,
you know,
Somali business people.
You're absolutely right. You only need to go to Wilson Airport on any day and look at the number of flights that go to that region every single day. It's serious business. Let me just say this. I know we're coming to the end of this particular hour. There are things which are within the purview and the control of a community, and it is those things they must grasp. Because there's this cat you're trying to bell called the government, and unfortunately it's a strange animal. It does its own things, but it also knows how to play catch up. If you have moved to a point where they feel they can assist, it's not because they like you, it's because they can take credit for whatever else that you've done. And sometimes that's the game that must be played. The two communities that are independent were way ahead of other communities in this country were the Kikuyus and Luos. And the reason was because they had a large number of people who were educated.
Exactly.
Now, they benefited from missionaries, the airlift, you name it. The Kikuyus benefited because they built their own indigenous schools, which later the government took over. Now, all I'm saying is, at the heart of any development of any nation, and I'm talking about nation as a big conglomeration of people and a small group of people, those smaller nations, there has to be that individual left of that group if you hope to uplift your people.
Yes.
Looking at that bigger body called the government is a tall order. But you start. Somewhere along the line, they'll realize it's in their interest to join you, and they'll join you, not the other way around.
Exactly.
Yes.
What's your hope, Mheshimiwa, in the coming years, in the coming weeks, in the coming months?
I mean, we have borne challenges bigger than the one we are facing before. We've had instances where we have had so many problems at the same time. We will weather this. I have no doubt in my mind that we will weather this. And if these efforts that have just begun, for example, the Mandera governor now delving into the issue of recruitment for teachers, some of the members of parliament doing that, very soon we will offset the balance. And that region, against all odds again, will shine through as it has done many times in the past.
Sounds good. Good words to go on. We want you to come back to open up this conversation a little bit more and to see the progress that has been made over time, keeping people accountable and making sure that folks who are in this can actually come forth through that. So, I mean, it was a short conversation. We'll be glad to have you back again. Sure. Mohamed Ado is the Member of Parliament for the Wajir South constituency. He's been our guest this hour, and we'll do it again in the short term. Morning, folks. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Senate Speaker Amason Kingi has defended Deputy President Rigathi Gachagwa's statement that the government has shareholders. Responding to Tana River Governor Dadho Godana, Kingi said that although President William Ruto will serve all Kenyans in the country, opportunities and government will be given to people who supported his quest.
Mambo ya kwamba serikali ni sako, serikali si sako. Si sako. Serikali mashindano ikiisha, sasa wale wameshinda wanaunda serikali. Haimaanishi ya kwamba wale wameshinda wanabagua wengine.
Munaona Rigathi Gachagua Deputy President wetu, si ndio? Akiongea wengine wanasikia uchungu, lakini anaongea ukweli. Akisema kwamba serikali hii ina stakeholders, ina shareholders, ni mkweli. Kitu ambacho serikali ya William Ruto inafanya ni kwamba hakuna sehemu ya nchi hii itabaki nyuma eti kwa sababu haikumpigia kura, lakini nyadhifa ndani ya serikali yake zitaenda kwa wale ambao walikufa naye, ambao wanamjua fikra zake.
On by-elections where representatives had died or the court annulled the elections, Kingi said Kenyans will have to be patient since there is no IEBC in place.
Ile selection panel imesitisha kazi zake kungoja yale mazungumzo yamalizike ndio tuanze, ili tulete commission kamili ambayo itaanza kusimamia uchaguzi. Kwa hivyo ndugu yangu, ulonipatia maombi yako utangoja sana. Kwa maana hata speaker wako na deputy speaker kwa they cannot declare the writs in the county assembly. Hawawezi, manake wakifanya hivyo tayari masaa na siku zinaanza kuyoyoma ili tuwe na ule uchaguzi.
Kingi further poured cold water on the ongoing talks by the National Dialogue Committee, saying it will not bear any fruits. Now, as the UN Security Council is expected today to discuss the planned deployment of international forces to Haiti to restore normalcy in the country, Kitutu Chacha South MP Anthony Kibagendi has condemned the US for not sending its troops to Haiti despite being capable. It told the Citizen TV that American security forces have the skills to restore stability in Haiti instead of deploying officers from countries like Kenya.
Haiti needs support. While they need support, I'm perturbed at why the US is aggressively seeking support from a small country like Kenya, yet they have all the resources and personnel, and Haiti is a few miles away from the US. They should be able to deploy their police officers or even the army to go and restore peace there.
It will be remembered that US President Joe Biden is among the international leaders who support Kenya's decision to send its police to Haiti.
And we embrace nations stepping up to lead in new ways and to seek new breakthroughs on hard issues. For example, on Haiti, the Caribbean community is facilitating a dialogue among Haitian society. I thank President Ruto of Kenya's, I thank him for his willingness to serve as the lead nation of a UN-backed security support mission. I call on the Security Council to authorize this mission now. The people of Haiti cannot wait much longer.
The UN Security Council will be making a decision later today, and we are following up that. We will be bringing you the very latest in a subsequent news bulletin. Now, residents of Esise in Nyeri County have protested against their area MCA Josiah Mangera's petition against Governor Amos Nyaribo. The residents have said that the move may interfere with development in the county as experienced before during the tenure of former Governor Nyangarama. They are now asking the MCA to shelve his ambition and instead meet the governor and solve their differences. Now, President William Ruto's advisor on gender issues, Harriet Shigai, has lamented the high defilement cases that are being reported in the country, with Busia County being at the top now. Speaking in Teso North constituency, accompanied by Busia County Member of Parliament Catherine Omanyo, Shigai said Busia County has registered more than 13,000 cases over the past 3 years, an issue that is worrying if not handled.
So Busia County is leading in Kenya currently on matters defilement, where you have an institution with a register of 13,000 defiled girls over some period of years. That means we are going to lose a whole generation. It is really bad. Not unless your child is affected, most of us look the other way. But we are saying if we don't address this issue now, if we don't address it now, we are going to lose a whole generation.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, so a few minutes after 8 o'clock, and we're looking at not too busy on Monday morning. I think it's going to continue for some time, this particular traffic that we see building on Joko Road, and that's going to go through towards Landis. The Thika Superhighway, as well as coming in from Kiambu Road, is also busy. Limuru Road, which we've not looked at for a bit. Also building up as you get into the CBD. Westlands is busy. James Gishoro is bumper to bumper, inching along over the drift as you touch on Wayaki Way. And we're also seeing some traffic then coming in from Gong Road. Look at Naivasha Road, touching on Gitanga Road. That's also going to keep being busy for some time. Not bumper to bumper, but traffic is flowing in this area. All right, as you're coming in from the Eastern Bypass and also going towards the Eastern Bypass, there's some traffic there. North Airport Road is giving from Cabanas, heading out towards that junction. We're in the middle of it. Let's keep an eye on things and see how it opens up later at a few minutes after 8 o'clock. And then let's talk on Spice FM KE on X.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
Good morning on this second day of October 2023. It's a new month. Karibuni sana to it. And welcome to this third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Monday. We're getting into it and looking at what's happening around the country. And our guest for this hour is already seated. Thanks for joining us. And again, welcome to our audiences on KTN Home. Good to have you here as we also connect with audiences on our social media and around the world. Karibu sana. All right, so looking at the state of the nation and the state of many things in terms of oversight, and to join us in that conversation this hour is nominated Senator Gloria Orwoba. Good morning.
Good morning.
You look resplendent in royal green.
Thank you.
My goodness.
Thank you for having me here today.
If anything to bright up a Monday morning, that's what it is. It's been a minute since you were here last time.
Oh, it's been a minute since I've done media. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And I'm just glad to be back on set. Yeah.
Thank you for making this the place that you come to be back. So let's welcome you properly. You're in the hot seat of Kenya's biggest conversation. And so let's welcome you. CT has proverbs from our neighbor, from Kenya's neighbor to the west. Abi? Yeah. Okay. Carried. Go on.
It's west, huh?
I think so.
Okay. This our first proverb for the week. The whole of this week will be looking at proverbs from the country of Uganda. People who live together cannot fail to have quarrels.
That's a proverb.
Yes.
Okay.
In the same house. Mm-hmm. In the same house.
Yeah.
They must have quarrels.
No. What I love is a question Mheshimiwa has asked. Yani kwani these people.
Did they look for that for me today?
No. These problems are prepared well in advance. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, I don't think of the day when I'm preparing them. I simply look at the proverb and how it resonates, how it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yes.
That one makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
How does it make sense to you?
People who live together must quarrel. If they don't quarrel, somebody is faking it.
If they don't quarrel, they don't live together, really.
No, yeah. Someone has already checked out, for sure. Yeah. And they are just... because you must have divergent views. You must, especially if you are working together or you are living together, there are activities where you will cross paths. If you don't quarrel, there's a problem, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So what you're saying is for this little brief encounter we have with you for this hour, we must quarrel.
We have to.
All right, good.
And if we're all on the same page, there's something
wrong.
Something wrong.
Okay.
Because we are three minds, there's no way we can all be on I mean, with the different things, we can be on the same page, but divergent views are always welcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Having said that, how are you?
I'm well, surprisingly.
Yeah.
I'm in good health.
Okay. Why is it surprising?
Why would that be a surprise?
When you go to the battlefield, you must come out wounded.
I think we're off on a trot here, aren't we?
Yeah,
Yes.
but I'm well. I'm in good health. I always thank God for good health. I'm in a good state of mind, so I'm happy to be here this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's look at the state of oversight, and because we're looking at the state of the nation generally, and I early this morning, look. We get here early in the morning and we have a chat, kind of like, in terms of how we're going to go into it. And I said, you know what? We're going to be having conversation with a nominated senator who's been through the ringers. Let's just open this thing up and say it as it is. She's been through the ringers. Here we are, we're talking about the state of the nation and looking at how things. And CC said something very profound to me. Maybe he doesn't remember what he said, but he said, if we're looking at the state of the nation and we're looking at those who've been tasked with oversight, and within that place where oversight is supposed to be happening, there seems to be some kind of friction. How then can we say that those who've been tasked with the position of oversight, if amongst themselves they don't seem to be on the same page, what really is the state of the nation when it comes to oversight?
One thing I can say, just as I've said earlier, is if we are all on the same page, something is terribly wrong. Because once you have two different individuals from two different backgrounds, more than two, they have to have divergent views, even on oversight. And whatever you see happening in our political spaces, in the oversight spaces, both the National Assembly and in the Senate, is also oversight, because it is divergent views, asking questions, looking for the proper mechanism, or trying to change what I call the status quo to ensure that we are able to deliver to Kenyans. So even the wrangles that you see happening, the battles that you see I'm fighting, are squarely based on the oversight that is expected of me as a legislator, as a leader, and of that house that we call the upper house, which is a very highly respected house called the Senate. So, in fact, you should be worried when it's too quiet, because you'll be wondering, all 67 senators are saying everything is okay in all 47 counties and the special elected,
we can see that.
So that you should be worried more when it's all quiet and we're all singing one song. Because, and that is the beauty of devolution. And I keep telling people, the beauty of devolution is we introduce mechanisms that ensure and try to respect the point of divergent views. Before that, it's the same thing as the multi-party democracy. Then there's a lot of noise because there's so many parties. And the moment you try to bring all those parties in one house, for instance, and call them Azimio, you see what happens, So for me, I would say when you hear noise, you should be happy because the leaders that you have elected are working. Because they are all trying to push an agenda that is resonating with their people. So for me, it is a good thing. And especially if the noise is about oversight, especially if the noise is about we want to see transparency in ABCD, then you should be happy about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The transparency agenda, because now that would lead us then into the greater conversation. The transparency agenda that has been happening from the House of Senate at this point, and saying, you know what, there are certain things that we need to look into. What have been some of those things that issues have been raised over that are of concern to Kenyans in terms of what is happening or that is going south, that the Senate has brought up and said this must be dealt with? It doesn't matter how many, it doesn't matter where they are. What have some of those things been?
One thing I think Kenyans have to understand about the Senate is, and that is something that this current group of senators is trying to change. Senate is designed in a way that you're oversighting past budgets, but spent money. So you come in and you're looking at reports from past regimes.
You're looking at history.
You're looking at history. The most you can do is say, this and this person stole this much money. And what we are trying to do, or at least what I'm trying to do, let me speak for myself, is get to a point where before you even spend that money, I am able to see as a senator that actually that money is going to the right place. And it might not mean that we are encroaching into the National Assembly mandate, into the issues of budgeting that the National Assembly really wants to they want to hold and say this is just our mandate. We have to be able to say as senators, we can see that this has been allocated, that's fine. But qua ground, when I go there, I'm actually getting reports that money is not going to the certain project. And before that money is spent, or even at the process of spending that money, I can be able as a senator to blow the whistle and say, hey, something is wrong here, so that we can stop it. But otherwise, if we cannot put those kind of mechanisms, we are forever oversighting history. And the most you can do as a senator when you're oversighting history is say that so and so person stole this money. And unfortunately, at that point, the person could be dead, the person could be in Senate, in the same committee, because governors also come to Senate. The person could be, probably has already squandered the money. Even if we're trying to go on recovery, there's nothing. I feel as though the way it has been designed, there's a good sense of, yes, we are the upper house and we play oversight, but we need to tweak it a little bit so that we can be able to stop the looting before it's done. And so for me, as much as we are also saying we are the oversight house, that is why you also see me speaking up a lot, because before I am able to come and say that, guys, you people are stealing money, how am I spending the resources that have been allocated to me as a leader? For instance, when you hear me asking for reports, it's because we are going to practice austerity measures across. So if we're telling our governors, you are spending too much money on tea and this and that, how is it at the Senate? Am I also spending too much money on tea? So, it is the issue of you must have the moral authority to be able to play oversight. And without that, you cannot now come back and say, I'm going to be your prefect, but you don't look at what I'm doing here. Let me just first oversight you. Then later, you guys can come and oversight what I'm doing. So, for me, I think Senate is very powerful. And if, as senators, we remain independent in thought and understand that our job as oversight has to be done independently without any influence. And I'm not talking about influence from the executive, because influence here, I'm talking about influence from all over. Then you'll be able to see the power of Senate, because the way devolution was designed, by the way, Senate can bring down corruption without anyone else being involved, without the cabinet being involved. We can literally take down corruption if we work independently and if we change a few things here and there so that we are not playing oversight on history.
I like what you've said, and I have packed every question on to ask you. So I know I'm not going to ask another question. I just want you to walk me through this.
Yes.
You say the Senate can actually, this overhaul we keep talking about, this change that we keep wishing for but never quite seem to see, that Senate can actually do it.
Yes.
Okay, just be so kind as to just walk us through and tell us this and the other and this and the other, so that we can also share this vision so that we understand what the Senate can do. It's for a selfish reason.
Let me give you a basic, maybe one that anyone at any level can understand. Budgeting, right? We start at National Assembly. They sit down, they agree on how we are allocating monies. Before that, we have committees, both in the National Assembly and the Senate, that actually present what they think would be priority areas for different ministries or different industries or sectors that, on county level, matters that have been devolved. At the point where now the budget is being presented to the National Assembly, they interrogate it in terms of money, they pass it. When it comes to the Senate, we interrogate it in terms of oversight from past spent budgets, and we say, okay, we give a nod to it, right? If we are able to, like now, the Senate has just come from Turkana, and they've highlighted all the resources that Turkana has as a county that can generate income just self on its own.
Pause for a second and tell us, why did they begin with Turkana?
I also asked that question. So I'm with you on that.
We're together there.
We're together there.
So carry on.
So for instance, Turkana, the amount of resources that has been given in the past in terms of devolution, in terms of budgeting, right? And the output of the same. There are questions to be asked. Now, if as a senator, I was able to give my input in terms of the history, because the problem also is I told you we're playing oversight on history, on spent budgets. Then I can be able to say, hey, wait a minute, I've seen that you have allocated this and this on national projects, and it's touching on Turkana and this, but hold up, before that one goes there, what happened to this that was allocated last time? And then we can, and then if, like as I said, if we tweak how Senate has been set up, we can be able to say, no, we don't agree to this kind of allocation, because we cannot be given a breakdown of how this past budget had an impact, so that we can now say we are pumping in more money. That's just a budgeting thing. But in terms of even basic things, like prior to all the noise that has been happening, I sat in the Committee of Delegated Legislation. That's a committee that's basically it rents out some powers to the executive in terms of drafting regulations that run the country. Regulations under NEMA, regulations. Every other ministry has got regulations, and it's a set of rules that we follow. Transport, NTSA, all those regulations. And a simple one I can pick, and I just give you an example, is the digital transport industry, Uber and whatnot and all that.
Yes.
How to regulate it in a way that that Kenyans directly benefit from those regulations. Now, you find that the committees, sometimes the way they have been set up, either the members are not really passionate about the work that they are doing, so a lot of things they are just passed.
Okay.
Or you find that there's a lot of interference on the committee, which is a very powerful tool.
By whom?
Just external parties. There's a lot of things happening. There shouldn't be an assumption about whether the executive, when it comes down to committees, is very less involved. There's a lot of interference, people with interest, such that when a regulation is tabled in front of that committee, and you question it thoroughly, because that is the work that I would do. Ask, why are we taxing this much? Why isn't this company registered in this, why doesn't Bolt have offices here and there? Why, because that is now also another oversight arm. And you find that you have such opportunities on committee level to cut the nonsense and actually change this country. And even the corruption part, from committee level, you can control it. But now the external interference, meddling, what I call, and I know it sounds what I call cartels. They're meddling in there. You end up looking like a lost. Sometimes I feel like, my goodness, what is that? Am I the only one who is seeing what is happening here? Why am I the only one shouting? Why is me and so and so? And it's so frustrating to know that you have the power to change things.
But you don't have the power.
But you don't have the power.
So what is it that you said, or what is it that you did that would have then ruffled the proverbial feathers to now get you into the situation where you are today?
I speak too much.
You speak too much, or you say certain things? What exactly happened?
I speak what everybody in the room is thinking, but cannot speak or refuses to speak.
So what are those?
Like what I'm telling you, when you are interrogating matters and you are asking, the same way you've just asked a question, why did we start in Turkana? I mean, not because we don't want to go to Turkana, but I would also want to know what is the thought process behind Turkana.
Why didn't you go to Nyeri, for instance?
You understand?
So in your mind, a basic question is what you're asking, a question that nobody else wants to ask. So then one would ask, what on earth is wrong with that, and why would that put you in trouble?
Because there's fear. You see what I'm going through. You see what, it's not easy. Nobody wants to have a workplace where they are constantly fighting. Nobody. People think that I like fighting. I don't like fighting. I'm a very peaceful person, quite the contrary. But nobody, so you look at this is what I tell people. You go to a place with such high expectations and you're dealt with cards. And as a human being, these are the cards you have to work with.
And you're saying no.
So you have two options. You take the cards and you work with them, or you say, no, I'm not going to work with these cards. These cards can't be the only cards on the deck. Can I at least get two of these other cards?
Because they exist.
Because they exist. Now, I hate to bring this up, but when the men ask for the other cards on the deck, nobody raises an eyebrow. They negotiate. They go on the side and they negotiate and say, okay, fine, it's true. Actually, when you see there's imbalance, what can we do? Okay, let's put you in this committee because actually we can see. They negotiate. But when a woman says these cards have been dealt with are wrong, they're like, wewe kwanza uko nominated, flower girl.
Okay.
So it becomes like, I'm just talking about the cards. I'm not talking about whether I'm nominated or what. I'm talking about the cards. You people look at these cards. These cards have been dealt with. I can't work with.
So what we're saying here is, in this game that we are playing, if you want to, use the card analogy,
yes.
In this game that we're playing, the hand that I have been dealt here, it is almost impossible for me to do my job in the oversight as
You're
a senator.
set up to fail.
So they're setting you up to fail. Now the question is, why on earth would anybody do that deliberately, set you up to fail?
Why on earth have we never gotten women elected? And please don't tell me because the electorate doesn't want women. No. Out of 20-something nominated members of parliament, both Senate and the National Assembly, last session, only one came back as a women rep. Nobody is asking these questions. When I ask these questions in forums, people become uncomfortable. I'm like, there's no way you can tell me 20-something nominated members of parliament, both in the Senate and the National Assembly, all of them were useless. You cannot tell me that. We had names, people with brains, and only one came back, Wako, as a women rep, elected. Everybody else alizama. And then you want to sit and talk about two-third gender rule. Mm-hmm. You want to sit and say we're intentional. You want to ask them why they are going to Senate for 5 years and failing. Me, I've seen why. Because when you are dealt the cards and you're told, these are the cards you have, now Sionge, you're nominated, and you accept, you've already accepted to fail. But if you understand that you're not going to be nominated again, so you will say, these cards can't work. You'll fight to get one card there, one card. Somebody, you'll be like, listen to me, guys, you are setting me up for failure.
So are you saying that because look, let me, if we're going to be very transparent about what's going on, that you've been suspended from the Senate. And this not okay. Well,
I was.
Those were the top. Okay, well,
I like it's been like
potato.
Yes.
All right. What brought about that initial conversation, that initial proceeding where there was back and forth in terms of what was going to happen? What you're telling us today is that because you dared to ask certain questions that folks were not necessarily asking, or that you brought up an issue that was uncomfortable in the minds of many. And so now if we're asking about what the role of the Senate is, then there's something fundamentally wrong. And are you saying that you were the John the Baptist who was saying that these are the issues that are being faced? Okay, Jean the Baptist. These are the issues that are being faced and nobody wants to attend to them. And now you guys are putting me in the naughty corner because I've asked the question.
First, I'm going to disappoint you because I can't discuss the matter in detail because, of course, we're in court. There was an attempt the first time to suspend me. The assumption was that I would be absent from the floor of the House. I was supposed to be in Ghana. And an advisor told me, Gloria, I don't think you should go. So I didn't go to Ghana. That was shocking. I showed up in chambers. That motion was adjourned. That one is in the public, you can see. And it was adjourned on the basis of we will sort out the issues outside of Parliament, which I agreed to because I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, staki kuongea. Conversations have to be had, So I agreed. Later, it's been in the public domain that I traveled there, and that is when now the motion was brought back to yani walicheza kama hao. By the way, there I was like, well done. Yeah. So then of course I was suspended, and even already at that point the matter was already in court because the first time that they brought the motion to suspend me, I went to court. And the matter was in court. It was a live matter in court. It's still a live matter in court. And now, in my absence, when I was in New York, trying to bring factories in Kenya for sanitary pads so we can employ more than 2,000 women, I was suspended in my absence. Of course, I couldn't defend myself. I lost out on my 15 minutes. I was looking very stressed at the airport trying to give my view. So that happened. And then I went back to the same court. I went back to court to say, guys, this it's not fair. And the court agreed and said, this is not fair. So at the moment, we lift the suspension and you wait to be heard in court.
Okay.
So that's the most I can say about this situation. But what I can say, and this is not a matter that is limited to Senate or to Parliament. This is a matter any workplace. And let me say, majority of workplaces that lack women leaders. I say that very intentionally because women leaders who have braved the waters and reached to where they are in leadership can easily pick up something that's happening that's wrong in terms of that discrimination when it comes to gender.
Okay.
So a lot of workplaces, by the way, I've worked in workplaces where we've had similar cases, only maybe the approach of dealing with it is different. The approach of how you engage the person who comes up and says, hey, I've been dealt bad cards is different. They don't punish you, they don't do this, they have a conversation. And it's the conversation that I think we need to have is, let us bring the statistics of this affirmative seat. Is it working? Right now we're having a conversation, and I've seen, I can't remember who, but this morning there's a person that said we need to remove the women representative seat. Yeah, I would ask them why. If they give me why, then I can start
look at it a little bit more.
I can't wake up and say we need to remove the women representative seat. It doesn't work like that. But I want us to have a conversation where, is the affirmative action actually working?
Okay.
Because if nominated members of parliament, members of county assembly who are women are not coming back as elected, then it's not working.
Then it's not working.
Yeah.
Let's take a break on that point because I think it's necessary to open up, court case aside, it's necessary to open up some of these issues for which obviously you're speaking about, and then to say that, look, they are deeper issues. They are deeper issues. And how will we have that conversation about that? Whether it is your head on the chopping block today or somebody tomorrow, we'll look at that after this. And at this point, to remind you that the African Regional Judicial Dialogue on Transnational Organized Crime is taking place. And that's taking place from tomorrow, the 3rd of October in Mombasa. And the dialogue will focus on the role of courts in the prevention and response to transnational organized crimes and illicit financial flows. The Chief Justice is opening up this conversation tomorrow, Tuesday. And what it is that the Kenya Judiciary Academy and its partners will provide a platform for the policy leadership and improve improve transnational justice. So during the forum, 21 countries will be represented from around Africa, and will discuss the issues, the challenges, the potential solutions to the adjudication of different forms of transnational organized crime and illicit financial flows. Those conversations will happen over 3 days, and you will be able to attend the conference live online and on TV as well. It's 27 minutes to 9 o'clock. Conversations continue right after this break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kiswahili.
Ben low, nin inte, nin there, you markati kadikta. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him, who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. Good. And you must blame it on Adam, not because Adam messed up and he was told, no, you fellow, you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
17 degrees, sunny conditions in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 28 and highs of 27 in a sunny Nakuru at 16. It's 18 and sunny in Nyeri, going to highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 25 in a sunny Eldoret at 18. It's 26 and sunny in Mombasa with highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 30 as well in a sunny Malindi at 27. It's 24 and partly sunny in Kisumu with highs of 31, and at 23 it's sunny in Kakamega with highs of 30, 21 and sunny in Kampala, and 26 and sunny in Dar es Salaam. Cloudy conditions at 10 in Johannesburg and 25, and cloudy in Lagos. It's sunny at 25 in Kinshasa. It'll go to highs of 36.
Sugar and spice and everything
Spice up your life.
Okay, where are we? Where are you, I guess is the question. Are you on the thicker superhighway? You won't have too much trouble until you get to the drift, and then it's going to slow down for you just a little bit. As you get towards Pangani at the underpass, and that's going to move slowly thereafter, you'll be fine as you get towards Muranga Road. So, patience is going to pay right about now if you're on the thicker superhighway. Coming in on Mombasa Road, you're fine. Getting towards Capital Centre, it's going to slow down just a tad, and you're going to touch on Nyayo Stadium at the roundabout. Going towards Uhuru Highway, at your junctions, it'll slow down. What junctions? Lusaka, Bunyala, then getting towards Haile Selassie. If you're going well into the city and then out towards Westlands, you'll be fine thereafter. Till you get to that University Way roundabout, it's going to slow down for you just a little bit. Are you coming off of Langata Road? You'll be all right. You get towards the junction between Raila Odinga and then going down towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. It's going to slow down a bit, but I think we're okay from there. Spice FMKE on X. Let's talk and keep things moving this Monday.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
Our guest this hour is nominated Senator Gloria Orwoba, and we're having discussions about, all right, if we're looking at the place where Senate sits today and looking at some of these issues, which she says nobody really wants to talk about. And if you do, you ruffle feathers. And that's where we are now, looking at those deeper issues, Senator, and asking the question, so what are the inherent issues? Obviously, you raised them because you felt deeply about them.
There are many, and they're systematic. And, it would have been easier if I was dealing with an individual. Because you can just blow the whistle on an individual and say, this individual is doing ABCD. But when it's a system that has been designed and embedded, it's culturally, it's deep-rooted. For instance, there is a silent rule that only certain senators can chair committees.
Why is that?
It's nowhere. There's no standing order. There's no whatever. But if you go and look at all the chairs of the committees, you will see a pattern. One, they are all male. Two, they are all elected. So obviously nominated, I cannot. That's one thing I find very... And especially some committees, you can see even the chairs that have been given those committees have no interest at all in the work of that committee. But because they have to be a chair, because they are elected, they are just given the committee. Then you automatically see, because there's no passion, there's no drive, there's no interest, even the matters on oversight of that committee just fall.
Speculate with us, please.
Another issue, I have had the privilege, I call it a privilege because now I have understood the system within Parliament. I've had a privilege to actually get my bill pushed all the way to past second reading. That's how, by the time you get to even first reading, people don't understand. You need a certificate of excellence or something. When you get to second reading, you need a trophy. If it passes, you are equivalent to Faith Kipyegon.
Why is it a teeth pulling exercise?
Because the processes behind it...
Is it rigorous? Is it something...
Very bureaucratic, very dependent on individuals. For instance, individuals who sit in the Senate Business Committee. You can have a political enemy sitting in the Senate Business Committee who will make sure that your legislative agenda will never see the light of day in the order paper. And there's nothing you can do about that, because that's one of the most powerful committee in the Senate Business Committee actually approves the order paper. So by the time even a motion to suspend you gets to the order paper, the Senate Business Committee has approved it. And it's very powerful. Any business in the House runs through that Senate Business Committee.
Okay.
They are the people who decide we are not going to discuss this. Okay. This is off. This is what...
this is the way it has been.
This is the system.
Okay.
Yeah. For instance, now I was talking about the bill. I am a proposer of the bill, passionate about it, rallying, for instance, Konza, rallying people around and everything. And but I can't vote. I can't vote for my own bill. For instance, my bill failed because of lack of 2 votes. I made 22 votes out of 24. Lack of 2 votes meant my vote as one of it, and 2 or 3 other women, who all the women can't vote except the elected, who are 3. So you go in there, you're nominated, you can't vote on your own bill, you can't vote on substantial matters, including, even if they bring that two-third gender rule and it has to pass through Senate, women can't vote.
Okay, so let's ask, let's ask, and we also, obviously, from what we are looking at here, the majority of nominated senators are women.
Yes.
Isn't it?
At this point, because that's the gender that is lacking.
Okay.
Yes.
And we needed some kind of representation to at least balance the numbers.
18.
So what can a nominated senator do? Just to give a little bit of information before we come back here.
They can form quorum. That's it.
Okay. You can rally people, say, come and vote, come and vote.
No, you can form quorum. You can enter because, for instance, a committee can run with a minimum quorum of 3.
Right. Okay.
So you are a quorum. That's why we're called flower girls. Mkuje to meeting.
Let us fill the aisle.
Yeah, because without the quorum, you cannot start the meeting.
And yet, even though you're part of that quorum, you cannot vote.
Okay. All right. So now...
So you're a guest at a meal and you're not allowed to eat?
Yes, you cannot vote. You cannot... you have no vote. You have... In everything. Every matter that you see is brought to the Senate. A nominated senator cannot vote on.
So what are you nominated for, really?
I ask this question daily, and when you propose discussions, and for instance, I brought a motion to the floor of the House, and you will debate it all you want to debate. You can't vote unless we vote by acclamation. Say aye, there. Maybe your voice can be heard, but the vote, the one that counts, you don't have it, and that means that you are an observer. You are observing things that are happening, and and probably that's why you see me shouting all the time. That's the most you can do.
Okay.
Because someone told me, hata ukikimbishwa kwa siasa, the least, piga tu kelele. Shout, at least people will know. Anakimbizwa. But that's the only thing you can do.
And obviously you feel that this should be different. And there are those on the other side who feel, well, people did not elect you. And
that is true.
And it could sting a little bit, but that you were given this position as a political favor for supporting a particular side.
I might have many enemies, some who are nominated, but they'll agree with me on this one. Nobody has given any nominated senator anything. Every single nominated senator that is in that is in the Senate, and those who are nominated, even the county assembly, have worked. And I've said this even, I think, in this show, that previously, the hardest position to get elected, because you get elected, it's a silent election, to get elected into is a nominated seat. You have to, it's a very small circle of people that you have to convince and literally have rally to support you and say, this is the person we are putting in our list as a party.
Okay.
It's the most difficult. I don't want to be in this position again. You can be sure about that. I want to go and look for votes. And, it is the most difficult position you can acquire if it is about acquiring. And I'll tell you, people forget that not all nominated senators came from, popped up from nowhere.
Right.
It's like, hey, who is that?
You were somewhere doing something.
I vied.
Yes.
I vied. In my constituency, Bobasi constituency, if you go and look at the presidential votes, I got more, my constituency, Bobasi, actually got more votes for the president than so many other constituencies who have elected members of parliament from our party. Yes, that should tell you something. I was on the ground. I vied as a member of parliament for Bobasi constituency. I came in second. When someone comes and says you are given, already you have a skewed imagination of where I came from. I led the Nyanza region. I was in charge of all the agents in the Nyanza region. And so that you know the impact of that, when Azimio was bringing evidence that the election was flawed, they were bringing my Form 34As. When I say my, I mean the Form 34As of UDA from Nyanza.
Yes.
That is what they were bringing to say, look at this Form 34A. I'm like, where is yours? You're bringing a UDA Form 34A. Didn't you collect yours?
And you should have your own.
So that you know the good job that I did. Because people forget. It's easy for women, it's easy to forget and just say, this is someone's girlfriend. Yeah? This is someone who was brought there because they are someone's girlfriend.
Or is a flower girl.
This is a flower girl. They forget. I was on every single station, every morning, sensitizing the public about the bottom-up economic agenda, what our presidential candidate then was promising to the electorate. There's a time people didn't even understand what that is, the Hustler Nation movement. We needed people to sensitize both on mainstream media and on the grassroots. You know, when this sanitary pads thing came up and guys said, oh, she just used that, it was fake and this and that. My team had to go and pull out all the work I'd been doing to end period poverty from 2007 to tell people there's nothing fake here. And if you're going to say she's starting to give pads now, forget it. It's all documented, including in Kisi. So it's just that as a woman, I don't know. They look at you and they just want to forget and say, this is so-and-so's girlfriend. And that is the narrative. That is the narrative that is being pushed now. People want to wipe out all the hard work that I have done and narrow it down to you and these sexual favors. And yet, when I was shouting about all the other injustices outside of that, they are supportive. But you know what I've also understood? It's the power of the story, the narrative, the single-sided story. And it is hurting the nominated senators because right now people are saying, if these are the kind of caliber people we have, so we don't need nominated senators.
Mheshimiwa, who controls the narrative?
Media controls the narrative. Can I give you a very basic example?
Please do.
The first person to do a breaking story that nominated senator has been suspended was Citizen TV. Till today, this date, 3 days after the court order has been served to lift the suspension, they are silent. They would rather push so-and-so has gagged Senator Orwoba. You broke the story about a suspension. A very critical thing has happened. The suspension has now been lifted and actually thrown out, and it's null and void. You as a media house are sitting on it. It's a narrative. You control the narrative. You're not being objective. You're not giving facts. Give facts. If Orwoba was suspended, I had a bad day. I had a bad week. I was in New York. It was all over the news. I dealt with it. If Orwoba now, the suspension has been lifted because the court has said that these people were rogue. Now go again as media, say, in fact, now we have received...
The suspension has been lifted. All right.
But when the narrative is being carved, and that is what you see me fighting, so there are three words. And unfortunately or fortunately, someone in politics, a woman in politics, before I even got nominated, told me, Gloria, never, ever, ever agree for them to tell your story. Tell your story. Because they will tell it the way they want to tell it. And by the time you want to come out of it, you're finished. So that is why I was frantically at the airport doing videos.
Trying to do things while trying to...
I was remembering, tell your story, tell your story. So, and this now are the things when I'm telling you, you are dealt cards. And you look at the cards and if you're bright, you know you failed already. These are some of the things because you are dealt cards that are setting you up for failure.
Why do you think, Senator, then, because what you described to me seems toxic at best. At best, it seems toxic. An environment where you have to work, like you say, you form quorum. Now they say, okay, bodies have filled the room. Let's come in now and do the business. You can't vote on something, but you can put a bill forward. And because you're sitting here, you can't even put your vote up for something that you spend hours, days, weeks, tirelessly toiling to bring out, or at least a paper that somebody can read. But then you can't vote on it. You also then are told that, well, okay, you look the way you do, you act the way you do, you must have been a favor to somebody sexually. I mean, at best, it seems like a toxic environment. I don't know that I would survive an hour. Why would those who've been in the position before you keep silent about... I don't think this toxicity is something that only Gloria Orwoba has seen.
No.
So why would people before you keep silent about it and not speak? Because we have not seen this kind of thing anywhere else.
Because
with anybody else.
It's a very difficult path to take with serious consequences, including losing your seat. Very serious. And, now this is where I say some of us came into politics because... I came into politics because I saw the power of being in a position that you can, with a strike of your pen, you can change things. I saw the power of being even in government and saying, we're going to change this policy. And then you see the trickle-down effect of it. And the people who came to politics because it's a good salary. So, are you going to now start risking your salary because you're feeling like umefinywa kidogo? No, you will not. There are people who came to politics because they've never traveled the world. They just got their passports the other day. So, why are you going to start speaking so that they tell you we are not going to send you to the United Nations General Assembly? You keep quiet and you go for your trips. We all have different reasons. Yeah? And there are people who genuinely want to change their communities. You can see that by the debates that happen in Senate. You can pick and say, this person actually cares about this. You can pick it. So you see, for me, and maybe this is what, because I have been talked to and people are saying, you come out very aggressive, gona kiburi. But I want to tell people one thing. I had a salary bigger than Senate 3 times over before I came into politics. I dropped it. I was like, no, nimefanya ya kutosha. I'm not feeling like I'm achieving anything here. I want to go and change things. And I came back. So I didn't come here for the salary. Because then I would have stayed at my job where I was. That was a damn good salary. And people also think the young leaders, unfortunately, it's not that they are wrong. It's just it's their first time experiences in things. If it's about traveling, I have traveled the world over in my capacity in the past.
In your previous capacity?
Yes. I mean, I've lived outside this country. Today, if you give me a trip to go to Sweden, I'll say no, thank you. I've lived in that country. I don't want to go back there. You know, so there's nothing exciting for me in terms of travel and things like that. But I look at what is... So those things are not things you can dangle in my face. And this is what now the system is having a challenge with. That system I was telling you is having a challenge. It's like, who tutamshikia wapi?
So essentially you're saying, I'm going to paraphrase and please correct me if I'm wrong, that within the hallowed halls of the Senate, one, there's a discriminatory boys' club where the men dominate, and that women are discriminated against. As I said, I will paraphrase, and I'm saying
you have paraphrased. I don't want to repeat it because I have many male colleagues in Senate who are very progressive, and I've actually been, by the most support I have gotten in this, my very difficult journey, has been from the male colleagues. And who you saw, for instance, Senator for Kirinyaga stand up and say this is nonsense. Who wake up and they actually say, no, we are not going to do that. That is discriminatory. Some of us are elected by women. We are going to support women. We are going to protect women. I have many of those colleagues in Senate. But there are a few.
But they seem powerful.
Of course they are powerful.
They seem to have the dominant...
There are a few who do what?
Of course, you know, the thing is, the nature of any institution is that there must be power that lies somewhere. And that is not anything new.
No, it isn't. It isn't new. But then, you see, why I brought this up and why I've taken the perspective I have, remember what this body called Senate is supposed to adjudicate. Remember what their mandate is. Now, if within those hallowed halls, we have discrimination in whatever form, and it is difficult to resolve, it seems to be a continuous uphill task. Where are we if we're going to regard and look at the larger picture of the state of the nation? Because we're going to, essentially our elected leaders are going to be spending time squabbling over things they shouldn't. And for matters they shouldn't even be squabbling over in the first place.
No, that one is, you're misunderstanding me.
Well, I'm doing so very deliberately because I want you to clarify.
No, you're misunderstanding me because what I also don't want to do is give an impression that Senate is useless. Senate is very powerful.
I haven't said useless.
And,
I said not useful.
No. Senate is very powerful and very useful, and as an institution and an organ on its own, I've told you it has the power to change this country in ways you cannot understand.
My dear, it hasn't.
Well,
that is the point.
I wouldn't say it hasn't.
Hasn't.
What I would say is that it has challenges getting there, but you can't automatically write us. It's like writing me off because of one fight, then you say that one is useless. No,
actually,
there's
Senator, forgive me, I'm a bit of an extremist in such matters, so bear with me.
Okay.
I am simply looking at results, and I'm looking at the mandate, and the scorecard isn't very good.
I don't want to authoritatively speak on the scorecard because you see, I've just clocked 1 year. I can speak on my scorecard in Senate. As Senate holistically, I can't speak because one, I don't have the information. I don't have. By the way, you have seen me asking for Senate travel reports. I'm also seeking information.
Right.
I'm also saying, so that I can give scorecards and understand what is happening. Please, can you furnish me with this one? Can you furnish me with that one? I'm also part of the people seeking information.
We are not insiders. You know, we actually lay people up to a point. And you see, the never-ending question that the citizens ask, okay, we've elected these people, we've given this mandate, the decisions that they make, how does it help us? Now, you see, that's my scorecard. If the Senate has the ability, and that's what we believed, to change things, okay, what have they changed in the years that we've had a Senate? What is this thing that you can look at and say, you know, if it wasn't for the Senate, this wouldn't have
If
happened.
it wasn't for the Senate, I can speak without even, with my 1 year. If it wasn't for the Senate, you would have governors in this country literally making a haste out of the monies that have been allocated down to the counties.
But that's what they're doing.
Oh, you see,
Not
that's what they're
really.
doing. Members of the county assembly are trying to throw them under the bus for that very same
let me
thing.
tell you something. First of all, there'll always be a war between the lower house and the upper house. So anything you hear the National Assembly people saying about the Senate, disregard, honestly. Because in my 1 year of there, it is like big brother, small brother, middle child, last born, whatever.
Yeah.
It's always like there's no objectivity, especially when it comes to criticism from National Assembly. They always criticize knowing we are at war with the Senate. They don't even want to see the good thing in it. Senate has actually played a very critical role in oversight and in terms of ensuring that the county governments, as much as they are trying to loot, we are there. We are definitely a stopgap measure
to keep them in check.
Yeah, but I can tell you one thing that has happened also. The expectations that have been put on senators is like, you have to do this, you have to go there, you have to do this. Senators, their offices are limited to coming to parliament, and then your oversight is played by somehow getting information from however resources you have. A basic thing someone said, Gloria, tunataka kukuona kwa ground. Uende uangalie sijui ni nini imefanywa hapa na hapa. I'm like, I have no problem going to the ground. Yeah, okay. So this my salary, which my salary enters my account like this. It goes to all my initiatives. I don't